Bury your intentions beneath casual talk. Power is rarely taken by force alone. It is taken by stealth. The most effective manipulators never announce their goals. They bury their intentions beneath layers of ordinary conversation, idle chatter, and disarming friendliness. When someone speaks casually, others instinctively lower their guard, never suspecting that real power often moves under the surface of light words and relaxed tones. It is not deception. It is strategic camouflage. You speak of the weather while plotting a storm. People crave transparency from others, but rarely offer it themselves. This is where influence begins, not in what you say, but in what you don't say. When you speak in casual, non-threatening ways, you give others the illusion of control. They think they're leading the conversation. They think they know where it's going. Meanwhile, your true aim remains hidden, buried just beneath the rhythm of everyday talk. And by the time they realize, it's already too late. In a world addicted to drama and directness, subtlety becomes your secret weapon. Hide your moves behind humor. Conceal your ambition behind curiosity. Ask questions that seem innocent, but gather the information you need. Talk about nothing while setting everything in motion. It's how spies win wars, how politicians win votes, and how real power is accumulated quietly. People reveal too much when they try to impress, to be liked, or to dominate. But when you bury your true intent in the folds of everyday speech, you move unseen. You become the whisper in a room full of noise, the only voice that truly matters. Deny power while seizing it. The most dangerous person in any room is the one who claims they want nothing. Power, when openly pursued, invites resistance. But when you deny it, when you act indifferent, even allergic to authority, you disarm suspicion. People lower their defenses around those who pretend to have no ambition. That's when you strike. True power moves quietly. It thrives in the shadows of modesty and misdirection. When you downplay your influence, others assume you are harmless. They open doors for you. They trust you with information. They let you closer. And as they talk, as they scheme, as they chase power out loud, you quietly become the one they rely on. You become indispensable without them even noticing when it happened. There is a certain brilliance in acting uninterested. Say you don't want control of the project. Say leadership exhausts you. Say you prefer to just help. Say it with a smile, a shrug, a tone so casual it feels like truth. All the while, maneuver behind the scenes. Offer solutions no one else can. Position yourself as the quiet expert, the steady hand, the one who can fix things when they fall apart. Eventually, people will follow you without knowing why. The trick is to appear passive while remaining precise. Never announce a takeover. Never show your hunger. Let others grasp desperately while you wait, calm and invisible. Power that is claimed quietly is almost never challenged. When people finally see your influence, they'll believe it grew naturally because you never asked for it. Let others chase credit, chase control. Most people are addicted to recognition. They want applause, titles, public praise. Let them have it. Let them run toward the spotlight, crave the stage, fight for a line in the credits. Meanwhile, you move behind the curtain where real power lives, not in being seen, but in being obeyed. Credit is loud, control is silent. One feeds ego, the other feeds legacy. The person who gets the praise may smile in the moment, but the one who shaped the outcome walks away with something far more valuable: leverage. When you trade attention for influence, you make yourself indispensable without making yourself a target. You're the whisper in their ear, the architect of their success, the name they don't say but always consult. Give people what they crave: acknowledgement. Let them believe the victory is theirs. Clap for them, celebrate them, make them feel like heroes. While they're basking in admiration, you're quietly setting the next move, aligning decisions, managing resources, pulling strings. This is how kings are made, not on thrones but through networks of silent dominance. The desire to be recognized is a weakness. It makes people predictable, emotional, easy to manipulate. But when you abandon that need, you gain something rare, clarity. You start to see the game beneath the praise, the invisible levers that move empires. People will smile at the face in the spotlight while obeying the one in the shadows. Control, not credit, builds real power. It lasts longer, reaches further, and leaves no fingerprints. Master the art of the strategic no. Power is not just about what you say yes to, it's defined by what you refuse. A well-placed no draws boundaries, commands respect, and signals that your time and energy are valuable, but it must be delivered with precision, not pride. This is the art of the strategic no, a denial that doesn't create enemies, but elevates your position. People fear saying no because they fear losing approval. They overcommit, overextend, and dilute their worth trying to please everyone. But the more accessible you are, the less powerful you seem. Those who always say yes become tools. Those who say no carefully, sparingly, become authorities. The strategic no is not cold, it's not cruel. It is calm, deliberate, and often wrapped in politeness. You decline not to push away, but to create space for impact, for leverage, for choice. You decline to protect your time and focus on what matters. You decline because you can. This refusal forces others to recalculate. Suddenly, your involvement becomes rare, your approval meaningful. People begin to ask differently, offer more, wait longer. They recognize that your yes is earned, not assumed. Sometimes the most powerful move in a negotiation, relationship, or career is not a brilliant yes, but a well-timed no that reshapes the room. It disrupts expectations. It realigns dynamics. It says, I am not desperate. I am not for everyone. I am in control. In a world addicted to agreement, the one who says no, strategically, calmly, unshakably, becomes unforgettable. Make silence your sharpest tool. Silence unsettles people. It creates a void they rush to fill with confessions, justifications, nervous laughter, and secrets they never meant to reveal. While others scramble to ease the discomfort, you remain still, deliberate, in control. In a noisy world obsessed with constant commentary, silence becomes power, not passive silence, but weaponized, intentional stillness that shapes conversations without uttering a word. When you speak less, your words gain gravity. People lean in, trying to read between the pauses. They assume meaning, even where there is none. A pause before answering makes you appear thoughtful, measured, above impulse. A long silence after their comment forces them to second-guess themselves. Was it too much? Did they reveal too much? Suddenly, you own the tempo of the exchange and the psychological high ground. Silence also protects. It denies your enemy's insight, gives nothing away, keeps them guessing. When you don't rush to fill the space, you remain unreadable, mysterious. And what people can't read, they can't predict or control. Silence shields your true thoughts, your next move, your internal leverage. In negotiation, silence is terrifying. It compels the other side to offer more, to adjust, to apologize. In conflict, it diffuses escalation. In leadership, it creates authority. Those who are constantly talking reveal their hand. Those who master silence hold the entire deck. Used with purpose, silence becomes sharper than argument, more persuasive than logic. It makes people listen harder, think deeper, and remember you longer. The loudest person rarely wins. The quietest one usually already has. Withdraw affection to stir obsession. Nothing haunts the human mind more than sudden silence. When you give warmth freely, attention, praise, affection, and then take it away without warning, you create a vacuum too powerful to ignore. People do not crave what is given endlessly. They crave what is lost. When you withdraw affection, you awaken obsession. It is one of the most intoxicating forms of control. Affection is addictive. It builds emotional routines, habits of closeness, small rituals of validation that others begin to depend on. When you remove it, even subtly, it triggers confusion, insecurity, a desperate search for meaning. They replay your words, they question themselves, they imagine reasons, and in doing so, they anchor themselves deeper to you, fighting not for love, but for resolution. The power lies not in cruelty, but in contrast. Give genuinely, then pull back. Respond slowly. Speak less. Change the tone. The shift must feel unspoken, like a shadow where sunlight once was. They won't know what changed, only that something did, and that uncertainty becomes your leverage. This dynamic is used in love, leadership, and influence. The charismatic leader who once praised you, now distant. The partner who used to laugh with you, suddenly colder. The friend who used to call, now silent. That silence echoes. It wraps around the mind, loops endlessly, demands attention. Affection, when withheld, becomes a mirror. People don't just miss you, they confront their own unmet needs. Their desire intensifies, not because you offer more, but because you've taken something they can no longer name, but desperately want back. Charm is more powerful when laced with danger. Charm by itself is pleasant, forgettable, a warm smile, a clever word, a gentle touch. But charm with an edge, that's unforgettable, that's magnetic. When someone feels both drawn to you and slightly unsettled by you, they become obsessed. It's the tension between safety and risk that keeps them hooked. They want to be close, but they can't quite relax, and that's where real power lives. People are fascinated by what they can't fully understand. Harmless charm is predictable. Dangerous charm keeps them guessing. It creates an emotional cocktail: curiosity, admiration, fear, desire. You're kind, but not weak. Playful, but not naive. They sense something unpredictable beneath the surface, and suddenly, every word you say carries weight. Every glance feels loaded. Danger doesn't mean violence. It means unpredictability, independence, the ability to walk away without warning. It means you don't need their approval, their praise, or even their presence. That detachment makes you irresistible. They never feel entirely sure of where they stand with you, and so they lean in further, offer more, reveal more. They want to win you, but you're not a prize. You're the threat of loss. When charm is laced with danger, it makes people work harder for your attention. It creates mystery. It builds obsession. You become someone they remember long after you've left the room. Not because you were nice, but because you were untouchable, controlled, smiling, with something sharp just behind it. The most powerful charm doesn't beg to be liked. It dares them to try. Lead through suggestion, not instruction. True power rarely raises its voice. It doesn't bark orders or demand obedience. It whispers ideas that others believe are their own. The most effective leaders don't instruct, they suggest. They guide minds, not hands. They plant thoughts like seeds and let others feel like they chose to water them. This is the art of silent command. People resist being told what to do, even when you're right, even when they agree. Direct instruction stirs ego, triggers rebellion, and builds walls. But a suggestion, delivered softly, framed as curiosity or possibility, slips past defenses. It bypasses pride. It feels like autonomy, even when it's direction. Have you considered, what if we tried? I wonder how it might go if... These are not questions. They're tools. They shape outcomes without overt control. People will act on your ideas more willingly when they think the decision was theirs, and the brilliance is, it was, because you made it feel that way. Suggestions feel collaborative. They invite thought instead of suppressing it, and when people act on them, they defend them. They commit harder. They sell your vision for you. This tactic works in boardrooms and bedrooms, revolutions and relationships. The parent who steers a child's choices through stories. The strategist who steers executives through carefully posed questions. The lover who shifts the direction of the night with a glance, not a command. The one who suggests holds the invisible reins. because when people move of their own will toward where you want them to go, you've already won. Be absent when they expect you most. Presence creates comfort. Absence creates power. When people expect you, when they need you, and you're suddenly nowhere to be found, the emotional impact is immediate. Confusion, longing, panic. In that gap, your value multiplies. Your silence is louder than words. Your absence becomes the loudest voice in the room. Most people try to be everywhere, all the time. They show up to prove loyalty, to stay relevant, to be seen. But the more available you are, the more you're taken for granted. Familiarity breeds indifference. People stop listening because they know you'll always be there. But when you disappear at the peak of their need, when your withdrawal is timed like a blade, suddenly your presence becomes a privilege. This isn't about ghosting. It's about tactical vanishing. Skip the meeting where your approval is assumed. Miss the call when everyone expects you to answer. Let them speak your name when you're not around to hear it. Let them wonder why. Let them feel the space you once filled. Absence creates mystique. It forces people to imagine you, to question themselves, to reevaluate your importance. You become larger in your absence than you ever were in the room. When done with purpose, absence resets the balance of power. It creates emotional leverage. It reminds them you're not a guarantee, you're a choice. And choices, when rare, are chaste. You don't gain influence by always showing up. You gain it by showing up less and making every return feel like a storm. Never fix what benefits you broken. Power often hides in the cracks. Systems, relationships, hierarchies, they're rarely perfect. But what appears broken to most can be a hidden advantage to the few who know how to use the dysfunction. When something flawed works in your favor, resist the urge to fix it. Fixing it may remove the very leverage it gives you. People love solutions. They're addicted to clarity, fairness, improvement. But not all brokenness is a problem. Sometimes it creates confusion, and confusion gives you room to move. Sometimes it breeds dependence, and dependence gives you control. Sometimes it hides your role, letting you operate beneath the surface, while others waste energy trying to make sense of the mess. The trap is in moral instinct, the desire to clean, to organize, to repair. But power isn't always found in perfection. Sometimes chaos keeps the wrong people disoriented. Sometimes a flawed process lets you step in as the only one who can make it work. Sometimes an unresolved conflict keeps rivals locked in battle, while you grow quietly in the shadows. To fix something is to expose it. To expose it is to risk losing it. This doesn't mean you cause dysfunction, but when it exists and serves you, let it breathe. Let others complain. Let them try to fix it. Let them burn energy in righteous effort. Meanwhile, you thrive in the cracks they overlook. Because when the game is broken, but the rules bend toward you, that is not a flaw. That is your advantage. Appear inconsistent to disarm pattern seekers. People search for patterns to feel safe. If they can predict you, they believe they can control you. They watch your habits, your tone, your timing. They look for your rhythm so they can anticipate your moves and neutralize them. Predictability is a leash, and those who can read you will eventually lead you. That's why power demands a touch of chaos. To stay in control, you must sometimes appear inconsistent, deliberately, strategically, and without explanation. Inconsistency confuses those who seek leverage. One day you're warm, the next you're cold. 1 week you're available, then suddenly unreachable. You support an idea and later withdraw quietly. They try to map you and fail. This makes them hesitate. It makes them question themselves. It makes you ungraspable and therefore untouchable. Controlled inconsistency is not recklessness. It is performance. Behind every unexpected move is a calculated intent. You show emotion to provoke response, then withhold it when they crave it. You change your language, your pace, your presence, not to lose your identity, but to keep others from using it against you. Even small shifts, how you answer, when you respond, what you emphasize, can disrupt their sense of control. People fear what they can't define. They obsess over what they can't predict. When they can't box you in, they give you space. And in that space, you have freedom to act without being preempted. To those watching too closely, be a storm with no pattern. Let them try to track you, while you quietly choose when and where to strike. Maintain plausible deniability always. The most powerful move is one you can walk away from untouched, to influence events without being tied to their outcome, to shape decisions, steer actions, or spark conflict while appearing uninvolved is a form of invisible power. This is the essence of plausible deniability, control without fingerprints. People trust what they can't prove. If your involvement is suspected but not confirmed, you become untouchable. You can whisper a suggestion that sparks a decision, leak a rumor that shifts perception, or orchestrate moves through intermediaries, and when questioned, you smile and shrug. That wasn't me. And it wasn't. Not directly. This is the armor of the strategist, the manipulator, the survivor. In politics, it's the aide who arranges the hit, while the leader's hands stay clean. In business, it's the executive who plants an idea in a meeting, but lets someone else voice it. In relationships, it's the person who sows doubt between others, then plays the role of peacemaker. To master plausible deniability, never speak in absolutes. Use implication. Ask questions instead of giving orders. Let others act on your nudges, then take credit or blame while you remain above it all. Say just enough to move things forward, but not enough to be pinned. Because when power becomes visible, it becomes vulnerable. Eyes turn toward it, fingers point. But if you move like smoke, always just out of reach, they can't touch you. They can't prove anything. And in that gap, between suspicion and certainty, you rule. Leave them guessing your motive. Once people believe they understand your motive, they start preparing defenses. They adjust, resist, protect what you're trying to influence. But when your motive remains unclear, when they can't quite pin down what you want or why you're there, they stay off balance. They second-guess every word, every glance. Uncertainty is a leash. It makes people cautious, vulnerable, reactive. Humans crave clarity. They want to label others, ally, threat, friend, competitor. The moment they think they've figured you out, they feel safe or ready to strike. But when your actions are sincere yet unexplained, when your tone is kind but your goal remains a mystery, they freeze. They can't attack what they don't understand. They can't manipulate what they can't define. Mystery shifts power toward you. You might help them or ruin them. You might be neutral. You might be watching for reasons they can't guess. That uncertainty forces them to treat you carefully, respectfully, sometimes even deferentially, because they don't know how to position themselves in your story. It creates an aura. You're not just someone with an agenda, you're someone with possibility. And possibility is more powerful than certainty. Let others explain themselves too soon. Let them be loud about their dreams, their loyalty, their plans. You move in ambiguity. Your silence isn't emptiness. It's pressure. It's the weight of a presence they can't predict. When they can't name your motive, they can't prepare for your move. And by the time they realize what you're after, you already have it. Sabotage through kindness. Kindness is disarming. It lowers defenses, melts suspicion, and blinds people to threat. When delivered with precision, kindness becomes the perfect cover, not for goodwill, but for quiet destruction. It's the kind of sabotage that doesn't look like sabotage. It smiles, it offers help, it asks how you're doing while watching how you break. People rarely defend against kindness. They welcome it, crave it, drop their guard in front of it. That's why it's so powerful when weaponized. A well-timed compliment can breed overconfidence. Too much praise can make someone arrogant, blind to their weaknesses. Giving someone the spotlight too soon can expose their unreadiness. and offering unnecessary help can foster dependence, making them weaker, not stronger, all while they thank you for it. This is not cruelty, it's strategy, it's power through softness. You give them exactly what they think they want, but never in the way that helps them grow. You encourage just enough, flatter just enough, assist just enough, until they quietly fall into patterns that serve you and destroy themselves, and when they fail, they won't even know why. They'll remember your support, your smile, your warmth, never suspecting that the blade was hidden in the gift. True manipulators never attack directly. They cradle their targets in comfort while steering them toward collapse. A poison dagger is dangerous, but a poison hug is invisible. That's why kindness, when used with intention, can shatter someone's foundation faster than confrontation ever could. People expect cruelty from enemies, but they never see the fall coming when it arrives dressed as love. Feign weakness to provoke arrogance. Strength intimidates, but weakness invites underestimation, and underestimation is a gift. When you appear unsure, uncertain, or even vulnerable, arrogant people begin to reveal themselves. They relax their guard, they get sloppy, they speak too much, assume too much, and prepare too little. They see an easy win and rush in blindly. That's when you strike. Arrogance feeds on the illusion of superiority. It thrives when it believes the fight is already won. So give them that illusion. Let them think you're not a threat. Ask innocent questions. Seem impressed. Shrug. Stumble once on purpose. Let their ego inflate so much it blocks their vision. The moment they believe they've already conquered you is the moment they stop defending what matters most. That's where your real advantage begins, not in strength, but in the performance of weakness. This tactic has been used by generals, negotiators, spies, and survivors for centuries. The weakest-looking hand often hides the most dangerous card. By lowering expectations, you control perception. You stay beneath their radar. You lure their confidence out into the open and let it rot under its own weight. Feigning weakness isn't about dishonesty, it's about timing. You choose when to show power by first choosing not to, because nothing exposes someone's blind spots faster than their belief they've already won. They show you their strategy, their ambition, their ego, all before realizing the game has already shifted. Let them laugh, let them feel superior. Then, when they're wide open, remind them who set the trap. Associate only with the rising. Power is contagious, but so is decline. The people around you shape your trajectory, whether you realize it or not. Associate with the stagnant, the bitter, the defeated, and their decay becomes your atmosphere. Their fear becomes your hesitation. Their limitations seep into your ambition. But when you surround yourself with the rising, those who are climbing, expanding, hungry, you absorb momentum like oxygen. You move faster just by being near them. The rising are not always the loudest. They may not even be recognized yet, but they carry a charge, a quiet intensity, a refusal to stay where they are. They chase discomfort, push boundaries, think beyond the present. Aligning with them doesn't just elevate your opportunities, it rewires your standard for what's possible. They force you to level up, to keep pace, to grow. And there's another reason, perception. People judge you by proximity. If you're seen among the bold, the talented, the strategic, they assume you're one of them. That assumption opens doors. You borrow credibility, influence, and prestige, not by pretending, but by choosing your alliances with ruthless intent. The declining will want your time. They will beg for your attention, your loyalty, your help. But loyalty to the wrong people is disloyalty to your future. Rise and take them with you if they can climb, but never slow your ascent to match someone's comfort with falling. Power isn't just about what you do, it's about who you're near. When you associate with the rising, your direction becomes inevitable, and so does your transformation. Turn enemies into distractions, Not every enemy needs to be destroyed. Some are more useful alive and loud. When someone opposes you, the instinct is to fight, to silence, to dominate. But true power lies in a subtler move, turning that enemy into a distraction, a decoy that absorbs attention, energy, and noise while you move freely elsewhere. Let them attack, let them bark. While the world watches them, no one sees what you're really building. Enemies crave your focus. They feed off your reactions, hoping to pull you into a public war. Don't give them that satisfaction. Instead, elevate their importance just enough to make them feel powerful. Encourage their noise. Let them believe they're getting to you. Meanwhile, you shift your strategy, secure your alliances, and execute your plans where they aren't looking. A vocal enemy becomes a lightning rod. They attract your critics, your skeptics, even your rivals. Let them. The more they speak, the more they reveal their own motives, their own insecurities. Eventually, their obsession with you will erode their credibility. Their constant attacks make you look composed, strategic, above the chaos. You don't have to fight. You just have to let them burn themselves out in public. This tactic turns conflict into cover. While everyone's eyes are on the drama, you're quietly winning. You're not ignoring your enemy. You're using them, weaponizing their voice as camouflage. Let them shout. Let them point fingers. Just make sure their noise hides your next move, because the enemy who thinks they're hurting you is often the perfect shield. Cultivate useful idiots. Not everyone in your orbit needs to be sharp. In fact, the most effective operators often surround themselves with the naive, the eager, the easily flattered, because those are the ones who move without understanding the game they're in. They carry messages, repeat narratives, enforce agendas, and influence others while believing they're acting on their own convictions. These are your useful idiots, pawns who think they're kings, voices who think they're independent, loyalists who don't realize they're expendable. The power lies in their blindness. You feed them praise, give them small wins, let them feel important, you make them feel chosen, and in return, they carry your weight. They fight your battles, they spread your words, they give you deniability, because when they speak, act, or defend you, it's seen as their idea, not yours. You stay clean. They take the fall if needed. Useful idiots crave validation more than truth. They confuse access for intimacy, tasks for trust. You give them visibility, not control. Let them think they're in the room, but never hand them the map. Let them feel powerful, so they never realize they're being used. This isn't about cruelty. It's about architecture. Every empire, every movement, every leader uses believers who don't know the whole truth. Their simplicity becomes a shield. Their emotion makes them persuasive, and their devotion makes them disposable. Protect your secrets, pull the strings gently, and when the game changes, replace them without remorse. They'll never know they were pieces. They'll leave thinking they were players. Frame your failures as noble sacrifices. Failure, when seen as weakness, invites pity or contempt, but failure reframed as sacrifice becomes something else entirely, something admirable, even heroic. When people believe you chose to lose for a higher cause, they stop questioning your competence and start admiring your character. The truth becomes irrelevant. Perception wins. You missed the promotion? Say you stepped aside so someone else could shine. Lost the deal? Say you protected the integrity of the partnership. Ended a relationship? Say you let go to let them grow. Never admit defeat outright. Cloak it in purpose. Make the fall look intentional. People will forgive failure. They will rally around sacrifice. This technique works because it feeds the emotional hunger of those watching. People crave meaning, story, and morality in what they observe. If you give them a narrative where your loss had depth, where your pain served something bigger, they'll defend you, even elevate you. You become the selfless strategist, the principled leader, the quiet martyr, and in that image, your influence grows. The world respects winners, but it worships the ones who bled for something. That's the power of framing. By owning the story of your downfall, you strip others of the power to define it for you. They can't mock a sacrifice. They can't shame a noble loss. Let them see you fall, but only after you've decided what it means. A well-framed failure won't diminish you. It will make them believe you were always playing a deeper game. Build dependency, not loyalty. Loyalty is emotional, beautiful, but unreliable. It shifts with sentiment, wavers under pressure, and dies the moment someone feels betrayed. Dependency, on the other hand, is cold, mechanical, and far more durable. When someone needs you to function, when their success, comfort, or survival depends on you, they won't walk away, even if they want to. That is real power. Most people chase loyalty, trying to be liked, respected, admired. They offer favors, praise, protection, hoping it will be returned. But admiration is optional. Need is not. If you want to hold influence over someone, make yourself essential, not lovable, necessary. Give them something they can't replace easily: access, skills, insight, protection, attention. Make yourself the bridge they can't cross without. Feed their goals in ways they didn't realize they depended on. Help them rise, but not without you. The more they build with you, the more they fear what happens without you. This isn't cruelty, it's strategy. Dependency doesn't require affection, it requires structure. You quietly weave yourself into their process, their routines, their decisions. By the time they notice, you've become part of the machinery, and removing you would mean tearing down the system they rely on. Loyalty asks people to want you. Dependency makes sure they need you. And need is stronger than love, stronger than trust, stronger than fear. You don't have to beg for commitment when they can't afford to lose you. That's when loyalty follows, not out of emotion, but survival. And nothing clings tighter than someone who knows you're the only thing keeping them afloat. Never fight battles that yield no spoils. Not every challenge is worth your energy. Not every opponent deserves your attention. Power is not measured by how many battles you win, but by which ones you refuse to fight. There are conflicts designed to drain you, bait you, distract you from the real prize. They offer noise, not gain, drama, not leverage, and once you're inside them, you bleed for nothing. The ego craves retaliation. It wants to be right, to correct, to defend, but power requires discipline. Ask yourself, what will I gain if I win this? If the answer is pride, recognition, or proving a point, walk away. Those are illusions. You don't trade time, reputation, or resources for momentary satisfaction. You fight only when there's territory to claim, when the victory brings access, control, loyalty, or silence. The most dangerous battles are the ones that look righteous but lead nowhere. Public arguments, online feuds, petty power struggles, they drag you into emotional trenches and leave you no stronger. Even when you win, you lose time, focus, and mystique. The onlookers are not impressed, they're entertained, and while they watch you wrestle in the mud, someone else is building quietly in the distance. Masterful players conserve their strength. They let others exhaust themselves over scraps. They hold fire until the moment matters, and when they strike, it's surgical, final, and worth it. Power isn't just about force, it's about restraint. Learn to walk past the battles designed to bait you, because the only war worth fighting is the one that changes your position forever. Let others win arguments, win influence instead. Most people fight to be right. They crave the final word, the approval of the room, the shallow victory of a proven point. But arguing to win rarely wins you anything that lasts. It bruises egos, sparks resentment, and turns future allies into permanent rivals. So let them win. Let them bask in the illusion of victory, while you quietly walk away with something far more valuable: influence. Influence isn't loud. It's not about who spoke last or whose logic seems stronger. Influence works in whispers, in afterthoughts, in the subtle shifts that follow a conversation. When you let someone feel right, feel heard, feel superior, they let their guard down. They soften. And in that softness, they absorb more than they realize. When you refuse to fight, they remember your calm. When you nod and step back, they believe they've convinced you, when in reality, you planted the seed. People rarely change in the heat of conflict, but they do change in the quiet after it. They think the idea was theirs. That's not a loss. That's your win. By avoiding battles of ego, you gain access to their mind and trust. You become the one who doesn't need to dominate to lead, and people follow those who make them feel powerful, not defeated. Let them walk away believing they won the argument. You'll win the room, the long-term respect, and the influence to shape things far beyond that moment. Influence doesn't shout. It rewires from beneath the surface. Profit from crisis. Crisis destroys the unprepared, but it creates opportunity for the ruthless. When others panic, freeze, or fall apart, the person who stays calm gains power. Crisis rewrites rules. It strips away illusions. It exposes weaknesses. In those raw moments, people look for guidance, protection, answers. If you can provide any of that, even just the illusion of control, you don't just survive the chaos, you own it. Most run from crisis. The powerful lean in, because crisis collapses structures others rely on, and in the vacuum that follows, influence can be seized with little resistance. You don't need to cause the crisis, you just need to be the one who looks like they expected it. While others are busy saving face, you're claiming ground. While they're blaming each other, you're making deals. While they're trying to restore the old order, you're creating a new one with yourself at the center. In crisis, loyalty is cheap. People want safety. They want vision. They'll follow the first person who makes them feel less afraid. Be that person, not with words, but with action. Stay still while they tremble. Make offers while they retreat. Appear unshaken, and you become the anchor they cling to. Crisis is emotional. It clouds judgment, and those who understand that can guide the outcome in any direction they choose. Position yourself where pain meets need, and you'll never lack for leverage, because when everything's falling apart, people will give you anything if you're the only one who doesn't flinch. Reveal just enough to seem honest. Total transparency is a myth. No one trusts the person who bears everything. It feels off, unnatural, performative. But partial honesty, that's believable. That's powerful. When you reveal just enough, you build the illusion of openness while keeping control over what truly matters. You satisfy curiosity, disarm suspicion, and create connection, all without giving anyone the ammunition to hurt you. The secret lies in selective vulnerability. Share a flaw that feels real but carries no risk. Admit to a small mistake, a mild insecurity, a past failure you've already overcome. Make it feel raw, even painful, but always safe. People will nod, connect, even admire you for your honesty. They'll lower their guard, thinking they've seen the real you, but they haven't. They've seen a version of you designed to earn their trust. This tactic works because humans crave authenticity. We instinctively trust those who appear flawed, humble, imperfect. So give them that, on your terms. Let them think they've pierced the mask. Let them feel close. But always keep your true intentions behind a second wall, untouched, unreadable. Revealing too much makes you vulnerable. Revealing nothing makes you suspicious. But revealing just enough makes you magnetic. It lets you control the narrative while making others feel like insiders. And once someone believes they know the real you, they stop looking deeper. That's when you're safest. That's when you're in control. Because nothing hides a weapon better than an open hand, and nothing hides a strategy better than a carefully chosen truth. Control the tone. Let others own the words. Words are distractions. People obsess over what's said, who said it, how it was phrased, what it meant. But the real power lies beneath the language, in the tone, the mood, the emotional current that shapes how words are received. If you control the tone of a conversation, you don't need to control the words. Others will say what they think they mean, while unknowingly serving your intent. Tone sets the frame. A sentence spoken in confidence lands differently than the same sentence whispered in doubt. A neutral phrase in a heated tone can start a war. A vague statement delivered with certainty can end one. When you master tone, your voice, your silence, your facial cues, you don't need to correct people. They adjust to you without realizing they've done it. Let them speak. Let them argue, explain, apologize. You maintain control by maintaining the atmosphere. Speak slowly to create gravity. Lower your voice to create tension. Pause before answering to force them to lean in. Smile at their insults. Stay still when they expect fire. The louder they get, the quieter you become, and the more your presence dominates the space. The illusion is that words drive meaning. The truth is, tone directs emotion, and emotion decides everything. If they walk away remembering how they felt more than what they said, you've won, because the person who shapes the emotional climate of the room is the one steering the outcome, regardless of whose voice fills the air. Be the first to redefine a narrative. Power is not just about what happened, it's about who gets to say what it means. In every scandal, loss, or turning point, there's a brief golden moment where perception is still fluid, still waiting to be shaped. If you seize that moment, if you're the first to redefine the story, you don't just survive the fallout, you rise from it. People are desperate to make sense of chaos. When something unexpected happens, they cling to the first explanation that makes them feel safe, righteous, or smart. If you provide that explanation calmly, confidently, before anyone else can, you become the author of the truth. And once people buy into your version, they will fight to defend it, even against better facts. You lost the deal? Say you sacrificed it to protect a long-term vision. You were removed from the project? Say you stepped aside for the greater good. You failed publicly? Call it a strategic pivot. Say it first. Say it with purpose. Say it before they decide for you. If you wait, you become a character in someone else's story. If you move first, you write the story and cast yourself in the role you want. Victim, visionary, martyr, mastermind. The role doesn't matter. The control does. Narratives, once accepted, are hard to uproot. So speak early. Speak clearly. Fill the silence with your version before someone else poisons it. Because in power, perception is reality, and the one who defines the narrative defines what everyone else believes. Force others to choose between bad options. Nothing tightens your grip on power like giving people the illusion of choice while ensuring every path leads to your desired outcome. When you present two or more options and each one benefits you, you control the game from the shadows. It's not about offering freedom. It's about framing it. And when every choice feels like a compromise, people will cling to the one that hurts less, not realizing they've already lost. This tactic works because people fear doing nothing. When faced with pressure, urgency, or discomfort, they rush toward resolution. You exploit that. Present a decision, force a deadline, and keep all the options unpleasant. Take the deal now or lose it forever. Stay in a broken system or enter one you don't understand. Either way, they're reacting, not thinking. Panic narrows vision, and in that narrowing, you guide their hand. The key is subtlety. Don't make the trap obvious. Dress one option as safer, one as riskier, but ensure both serve your end. They'll spend energy debating, bargaining, and rationalizing, while you sit calmly, knowing the result is already set. This strategy isn't about cruelty, it's about control. Sometimes you don't need to win with force. You win by shrinking the playing field until there's only one real direction left, yours. Let them feel torn, let them feel frustrated, Let them believe they had a say. But behind the curtain, you are the architect of every road they walk. And no matter what they choose, they end up exactly where you wanted them all along. Insult through questions, not statements. Direct insults are easy to dismiss. They trigger defense, anger, even pity. But a question, softly asked, seemingly innocent, can wound far deeper. Questions don't accuse. They plant seeds. They make the other person reflect, doubt, squirm. A well-placed question can make someone feel exposed without ever raising your voice. That's how you insult without appearing hostile. You let them do it to themselves. Are you sure that's the best you could come up with? Did anyone else agree with your idea? Or just you? Is this how you usually handle these situations? Each one feels small on the surface, but it cuts. Not because of what you said, but because of what it makes them feel. The power lies in implication. You never claim they're wrong, foolish, insecure. You just ask a question that makes those truths echo in their own mind. Questions disarm because they appear neutral. People don't brace for them the way they do for attacks. They try to answer, and in answering, they reveal more. They justify, they overcompensate, they get angry trying not to sound insecure. And all the while you remain composed, even curious. The crowd hears civility, only the target feels the sting. This technique doesn't just wound, it humiliates quietly. It paints you as reasonable and them as unstable. It draws laughter without aggression, compliance without confrontation. When used carefully, insulting through questions makes you the person who never raises a weapon, but always wins the duel. Give them a role in your myth. People are driven by stories, especially the ones they get to be part of. If you want loyalty, influence, even worship, don't just impress them with who you are. Include them in who you're becoming. Make them feel like they were there at the start, that they helped shape your rise. Give them a role in your myth, and they will protect your legend as if it were their own. This is not about lying. It's about crafting a narrative powerful enough to live beyond facts. When you tell your story, your struggle, your ambition, your rise, you don't place yourself above them. You place them beside you. Let them believe they encouraged you, guided you, inspired you. Let them feel that without their presence, your path would have looked different. It flatters them, yes, but more importantly, it binds them. Humans crave meaning, and few things feel more meaningful than proximity to greatness. If you make someone feel like a trusted witness to your transformation, they will defend you, amplify you, and feel seen in your success. Your victories become theirs, your legacy, a reflection of their judgment. Even rivals can be folded into your myth. Mention how they challenged you, how their opposition sharpened your resolve. Suddenly, even enemies become supporting characters in your legend. They thought they were fighting you. Instead, they were making you more compelling. The myth is what people remember, and if they see themselves in it, they won't question it. They'll carry it forward, repeat it, build temples to it, because deep down, they're not just honoring you, they're honoring the part they played in your rise. Change personas before they decay. Every identity has an expiration date. The charming newcomer, the rebel genius, the quiet strategist. Each persona holds power for a time, but once people grow too familiar with it, the mystique fades. They stop being intrigued and start predicting you. What once drew them in now bores them. And if you cling to a persona past its prime, it begins to rot. What was once admired becomes performative, even pathetic. That's why the powerful evolve. Before the audience notices the cracks, you must change before you're forced to. Reinvent yourself while you still control the narrative. Switch tone, shift energy, appear harder, softer, bolder, colder. Whatever they expected from you, become the opposite. Make them recalibrate. Make them pay attention again. This is not inauthenticity, it's survival. People worship the mysterious, not the consistent. The moment they feel they've figured you out, they stop listening. But when you change, when you shed skin and emerge as something sharper, they can't look away. They question their memory of you. They ask who you really are. And in that question, you regain control. Celebrities do this. Politicians do this. Master manipulators do this. One moment the savior, the next the villain. One season the ally, the next the enigma. It resets power dynamics. It creates distance. It makes them chase you all over again. Let them study the old version of you. Let them memorize it. Just make sure that by the time they understand it, you've already become someone else. Sell hope, not reality. Reality is heavy. It's filled with limits, delays, flaws, and uncomfortable truths. People say they want honesty, but what they truly crave, what they cling to, is hope, the promise of something better, the feeling that tomorrow might redeem today. If you offer people hard facts, they will resist you. But if you offer them a vision, one bright enough, bold enough, unreachable enough, they will follow you anywhere. Hope doesn't need to be accurate. It needs to be beautiful. It needs to feel like escape. Leaders, prophets, marketers, revolutionaries, they all rise not by describing the world as it is, but by painting the world as it could be. The more uncertain the times, the more desperate people become for someone who can name their pain and then whisper, "There's a way out." Reality makes demands. Hope makes promises. One weighs people down, the other lifts them up, even if only in illusion. And when people feel uplifted, they give more, trust more, sacrifice more. They defend the dream even when it betrays them, because it gave them something reality never did. Meaning. This is why the most powerful figures rarely speak in numbers or timelines. They speak in symbols, in emotions, in destiny. They know people don't follow data. They follow belief. They follow the ones who can make them feel again. You don't need to deliver the dream immediately. You just need to make them see it, because when someone believes you hold the future they long for, they'll forgive the present and give you everything while they wait. Foster rivalries beneath you. The most effective way to stay on top is to keep those below you divided. When people fight each other, they forget to question you. They burn their energy on battles you've quietly orchestrated, thinking they're asserting dominance, never realizing they're dancing to your design. This is the power of manufactured rivalry, controlled chaos that protects your throne. Rivalries ignite over pride, status, recognition. You don't need to invent the fire, just fan the sparks. Subtle compliments to one, silent praise to the other. A shared resource, a vague promotion, a decision that benefits one side just slightly more. Soon, the tension grows. They start watching each other, not you. They try to outshine one another, not remove you. Their ambition becomes your shield. While they argue, you appear neutral, fair, above it all. But your silence is not innocence, it's engineering. You let them clash while you collect the rewards, their secrets, their missteps, their growing dependence on you to mediate. You become the stabilizer, the authority, the one they need, even if you're the one who pulled the first thread. This strategy doesn't require chaos. It requires friction, just enough to keep them suspicious of each other, but never united against you. Unity is dangerous. Division is control. The more they compete, the more you rise, not by force, but by contrast. Let them fight for favor. Let them whisper and posture. Just make sure the war stays below you, because as long as they're looking sideways, no one's looking up. Use tradition as camouflage for change. Nothing provokes resistance like sudden change. People cling to tradition not because it's better, but because it's familiar. It feels safe. It tells them who they are. So, when you need to disrupt, evolve, or overturn a system, don't declare a revolution. Wrap it in the language of tradition. Make it feel old, even as it transforms everything underneath. The secret is not to fight tradition, but to inhabit it. Dress your new ideas in ancient words. Frame your innovation as a return to values we've always held. refer to ancestors, legacy, sacred roots. Say, we're restoring the original spirit, even if you're dismantling it brick by brick. People will nod, they'll feel proud, they'll support change without knowing they've already crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. This tactic works because people fear the unknown more than they fear being misled. Give them continuity. Let them think the past is still alive while you quietly write the future. Let them feel like they're protecting something when in fact they're helping you replace it. You don't have to lie, you just have to speak in a tone that feels familiar. Leaders, institutions, empires have all survived by updating their power structures beneath the surface while preaching loyalty to old gods. The robes stay the same, only the hands inside them shift. That's the brilliance of using tradition not as an anchor, but as camouflage, because no one guards the gate when they think it's already theirs, and by the time they realize what's changed, they're already kneeling before it. Make generosity feel like a favor owed. True power doesn't come from giving, it comes from how you give. Generosity, when offered carelessly, becomes forgettable, but generosity delivered with precision, timing, and weight leaves a mark. The goal is not just to appear kind, it's to bind others with invisible thread. When you help someone, you're not just offering support, you're planting obligation. You're creating a debt they can't fully name, but feel in their gut. People hate feeling indebted, so they try to repay, whether consciously or not. They agree with you more. They hesitate before opposing you. They remember you in rooms you've never entered. That's not kindness. That's leverage disguised as virtue. But you must never frame it as a transaction. You don't ask for repayment. You don't remind them. That would expose the game. Instead, you give with quiet significance, at a moment of need, in a way that feels personal. You give something no one else would or could, not money, not favors, relief, insight, access. You become a turning point in their story, and the more unexpected your generosity, the more powerful it becomes. They'll speak well of you, defend you, justify your flaws, because admitting they owe you unsettles their pride, so they rewrite the narrative. You're good, you're loyal, you're someone who deserves their loyalty back. That's the real trap. Let others give for applause. You give for influence. You give so that later, when silence falls and a decision must be made, your name echoes louder than the request itself. Kill rumors with overexposure. Rumors thrive in silence. They feed on mystery, on the unknown, on the shadows between what's said and what's true. The less people know, the more they invent. But you don't always defeat rumors by denying them. You smother them by flooding them. You strip them of power by making them boring. When you overexpose a rumor, you take away its oxygen. You turn what felt dangerous into something predictable, mundane, and forgettable. The moment you panic or hide from a whisper, it gains credibility. People assume there's truth behind your silence. But if you bring it out yourself, loudly, mockingly, even casually, you shift control. You turn the subject from taboo into trivia. What was once whispered in corners now becomes dinner table small talk, and no one fears what they hear every day. Overexposure is not confession, it's reframing. You repeat the rumor, distort it, exaggerate it, drown it in jokes, stories, spin. You become so open about it that it loses its sting. Yes, I've heard that one too. 10 different versions. Want to hear the wildest one? Suddenly, the tension breaks, the intrigue dies, the rumor becomes entertainment, not evidence. This tactic disorients your critics. They wanted secrecy, they wanted shame. Instead, they get a smirk and a microphone. They can't control the narrative when you're the one telling it, louder, looser, and more absurd than they ever dared. In the end, people don't remember the first whisper. They remember the person who laughed loudest while holding the mic. That's who owns the truth. When blamed, blame ambiguity. No one likes to be at fault, but denying blame outright often makes you look defensive or guilty. The smarter move isn't to reject the blame, it's to redirect it into the fog, into the gray, into the misunderstanding. When things go wrong and fingers point, don't fight back, don't lash out. Blame ambiguity, blame confusion, blame the lack of clarity, not a person, not a mistake, the uncertainty itself. This tactic disarms accusers because it offers no target. You're not denying their frustration, you're validating it. I completely understand why it looked that way. Clearly, there was some miscommunication here. Let's be honest, the expectations weren't clearly defined. You shift the conversation from what you did to how unclear things were from the start. Suddenly, the narrative changes. It's no longer about incompetence, it's about complexity, misalignment, a gap in understanding. And who hasn't been caught in that? People don't want villains. They want explanations. If you give them one that feels sophisticated, nuanced, and emotionally neutral, they often accept it, especially if it sounds like everyone shares a bit of the blame, even if no one really does. That's the beauty of ambiguity. No one can punch fog. By blaming the unclear, you protect the clean. Your record stays intact. Your reputation stays untarnished. You come across not as the problem, but as the one trying to clarify the problem. And that's all most people need to stop digging deeper. You don't erase the blame, you dissolve it, quietly, completely. Feed their vanity to drown their reason. The mind may argue, but the ego decides. If you want to control someone, speak not to their logic, but to their reflection. Make them feel admired, envied, essential. Stroke the part of them that wants to be special, irreplaceable, seen. Because once vanity is ignited, reason begins to drown. Pride clouds judgment faster than fear ever could. People want to be seduced by their own greatness. Tell them what they secretly hope to believe, that they are smarter than others, braver than most, destined for more. Feed them flattery, not with syrupy praise, but with tailored truth, the kind of praise that feels earned, personal, rare. Make them feel like you see what others miss. Their guard will drop, and in its place, hunger will rise, the hunger to keep being seen that way. And that's when they become suggestible. They'll agree to things to maintain your admiration. They'll bend facts to protect the image you've given them. You're no longer negotiating with a person. You're negotiating with their fantasy. And people will protect their fantasy at all costs. Vanity isn't always loud. It hides behind humility, modesty, even insecurity. But it's always there, waiting to be fed. When you find it, stroke it gently. Never too obvious, never too soon. Let them feel powerful in your presence, and they will mistake your manipulation for loyalty. Reason warns them. Ego silences it. And when they finally fall into your hands, they'll thank you, believing you were the only one who ever truly saw them. Always ask, why now? When something shifts suddenly, an offer, a compliment, an attack, a request, the first question you must ask isn't, what does this mean? But, why now? Timing is never neutral. It's a message, a hidden pressure point, a move made because the moment made it necessary. And if you ignore the timing, you miss the truth behind the act. Most people get swept up in what's happening and forget to question why it's happening at this exact moment. Why did they reach out now, after months of silence? Why the apology today, not last week? Why the opportunity just as your leverage was growing? Timing exposes motive. It reveals fear, desperation, calculation. And when you learn to read timing like a code, people become transparent. The question, why now, pulls back the curtain. It forces you to think beyond face value. Maybe the praise is meant to distract you. Maybe the aggression is a smokescreen. Maybe the sudden generosity is tied to something they're not saying. You don't always have to ask the question out loud, but you must always ask it in your mind, quietly, sharply, before responding. This habit creates distance between impulse and reaction. It gives you space to assess, reframe, reposition. You stop being a pawn pulled into their timing and start becoming the player who sees the board 2 moves ahead, because the answer to why now is almost always where the real power hides, not in the move itself, but in what made it urgent. Give the impression of spontaneity. People trust what feels natural. They're drawn to the unrehearsed, the off-the-cuff, the moment that seems to bloom by accident. But behind every truly powerful move is careful design, hidden beneath the illusion of spontaneity. When your actions feel unplanned, your influence feels genuine, disarming, real, and that's when they stop questioning your intent and start following your lead. Spontaneity charms the mind and bypasses suspicion. A comment that seems impulsive is rarely scrutinized. A decision made in the moment is often forgiven. When people believe you're improvising, they let down their guard. They assume you're being honest, emotional, human. They miss the strategy unfolding behind your eyes because it doesn't feel like strategy. But the truth is, the most spontaneous seeming players rehearse in silence. They anticipate outcomes. They know when to pause, when to laugh, when to feign surprise. The timing is exact, but the performance is casual. That's what makes it powerful. It doesn't look like manipulation. It looks like instinct. This technique builds deep influence. It makes people feel like they're part of something unfolding in real time, not something scripted. They trust you more. They mirror your energy. They open up. Use this in conversation, in negotiation, in confrontation. Drop insights as if you just thought of them. Make generosity seem impulsive, anger seem raw, praise seem unrehearsed. Behind every smile, every shrug, every offhand remark, there is calculation, but they'll never see it. Because when power moves without warning, people assume it isn't power at all. They think it's fate, or charm, or luck. Let them. Be seen suffering for their sake. People will follow you further, trust you deeper, and forgive you faster if they believe you've sacrificed something for them. Not because you told them, but because they saw it. Suffering, when it's visible, emotional, and framed as selfless, becomes a powerful currency of influence. It creates guilt. It breeds loyalty. It makes people feel protected, chosen, indebted. The key isn't pain, it's performance. You don't hide your struggle. You don't boast about it either. You let it bleed just enough. The tired eyes, the silence in a meeting, the calm voice explaining how much you gave up to keep things together, the decision that cost you privately but saved them publicly. You don't beg for sympathy. You make them feel it without a word. When people see you suffering for their benefit, they elevate you. You become something more than a leader. You become a protector, a martyr, a figure of sacrifice they can't betray without guilt. This emotional bond is stronger than admiration. It's devotion born from perceived debt. Even your enemies become cautious. No one wants to be the one who turned on the person who gave so much. Your suffering becomes a shield. It earns silence. It earns second chances. It reshapes your image into something larger than life. Someone who hurts, not because they failed, but because they cared too much. In a world obsessed with invincibility, strategic suffering sets you apart. It makes you human, but untouchable, vulnerable, but unchallengeable. And the moment they believe your pain was for them, they'll carry your burden like it's their own. Poison praise with implications. Not all praise uplifts. Some praise disorients. Some praise controls. When you compliment someone, but lace it with subtle expectations, hidden comparisons, or conditional undertones, you bind them without ever issuing a command. They'll smile at your words while choking on what they really mean. This is poison praise, flattery that tightens the leash instead of loosening it. You're so much better than the rest of your team. You're surprisingly sharp when you stay focused. I trust you. You're not like the others. Each phrase sounds sweet, but beneath the surface, it digs into ego, triggers insecurity, or demands performance. The praise elevates them. but in a way that makes them need to keep earning it. Suddenly, they're seeking your approval not because they want to, but because they fear what it might mean to lose it. Poison praise works because it bypasses defenses. No one fights a compliment. They let it in, absorb it, replay it. But the implications begin to whisper, don't slip up. Don't become ordinary. Don't betray the image I just gave you. It traps them in an identity they didn't ask for, but now feel compelled to live up to. You create silent pressure. You define their worth on your terms, and they adjust themselves voluntarily to keep your favor. Use this tool carefully, strategically. You don't need to insult to control. Just admire them too precisely. Compliment the exact thing you want to shape, because once they're proud of the label you gave them, they'll protect it for you without ever knowing it was your leash all along. Announce fake limits to appear bound. People trust what they believe is restrained. A weapon that looks too free is feared. A person with no boundaries is watched closely. But when you appear to have limits, moral, emotional, strategic, you become less threatening, more relatable, easier to invite in. That's why one of the most effective tools of power is the illusion of restraint, announcing limits you don't actually live by, so others let you closer without guarding themselves. Say you never negotiate beyond a certain number. Say you won't cross a specific line. Say you avoid certain tactics, roles, or relationships out of principle. You're not building walls, you're building trust. You're creating the sense that you play by rules, that you're self-governed, predictable, even safe. But what you're really doing is lowering their defenses. They think they know your edges. They think they've seen the borders of your influence. Meanwhile, you move quietly beyond those lines without ever announcing it. This strategy works because people want to believe in your limitations. It makes them feel in control. And when they feel in control, they stop watching. They reveal more. They open up ground they would have protected had they known you were never really bound. Fake limits also buy you forgiveness. When you do cross a line, you can frame it as an exception, a breaking point, a rare shift. You've never done this before, and suddenly, even your most ruthless move feels justified. The key is conviction. Announce your boundaries like they define you, and while they believe you're boxed in, you're already 2 steps outside. Empower the paranoid to keep peace. The paranoid are exhausting, but they're also useful. Their fear of betrayal, their obsession with control, their constant scanning for danger, these are not weaknesses to suppress. They're tools to exploit. When you empower the paranoid, when you make them feel seen, important, included, you shift their suspicion away from you and turn them into guardians of the very peace they once threatened to break. Paranoia is born from exclusion, from the feeling that something is happening behind closed doors, so give them a seat at the table, but only just close enough. Feed them select truths, let them feel like insiders, let them think they've uncovered something when you meant for them to find it. Once they feel involved, their energy no longer goes towards sabotage, it goes towards surveillance, and nothing maintains order like someone who thinks they're watching on your behalf. This strategy is not about trust, it's about management. The paranoid will always suspect, but when they suspect others instead of you, they become your silent enforcers. They raise alarms before problems reach you. They sniff out disloyalty before it festers. They obsessively protect what they now believe is their domain. Don't argue with their fears. Validate them, then subtly direct them. Let them feel like their worry is wisdom, like their vigilance makes them invaluable, and it will, because a paranoid person who thinks they matter will fight to protect the system that gave them purpose, even if that system is built entirely for you. When you can't silence the paranoid, hand them a flashlight and aim it where you choose. Appear to obey while subverting. Raw defiance invites punishment. Open rebellion triggers force. But obedience, especially when performed with grace, lulls power into sleep. When you appear compliant, agreeable, cooperative, those above you lower their guard. They stop watching closely. They stop questioning your intent. And that's when true subversion begins, not in resistance, but in disguise. Nod when they speak. Follow their orders precisely, but just slightly delayed. Carry out instructions, but frame the results in your favor. Speak their language while shifting their message. Smile as you shift the ground beneath their feet. Power structures are most vulnerable when they believe they've been obeyed, because once they stop scanning for threats, they stop seeing you at all. The genius of this tactic lies in contrast. They think you're an ally, but you know you're the architect of an alternative future. You're not burning the system down. You're reshaping it from inside, brick by unnoticed brick. You're changing how others view authority, how rules are applied, how decisions are made, without ever calling it mutiny. Appearing to obey allows you to gather intel. It buys you time. It earns you favor, access, and leverage, all while your true agenda stays wrapped in respect and silence. No alarms go off. No flags are raised. You're the loyal one, the dependable one, until you're the one they suddenly can't move without, and by then, you've already rewritten the game. The most dangerous player is never the loudest dissenter. It's the one who bows, with a smirk they never see. Use humor to neutralize threats. Humor disarms faster than logic, faster than anger, faster than force. A well-placed joke can collapse tension, deflect attack, and flip the power dynamic without ever raising your voice. When you respond to a threat with laughter, not nervous, not defensive, but controlled, you take the sting out of the moment. You send a clear message: you don't scare me. Most threats thrive on seriousness. They want escalation. They want fear, outrage, overreaction. But humor short-circuits that cycle. It shifts the tone, reframes the energy, and often exposes the threat as insecure or absurd. A joke creates distance. Suddenly, the attacker looks emotional while you look composed. They shout, you smile. They strike, you shrug. And everyone watching sees who's really in control. But this isn't about being a clown. It's about precision. The right kind of humor cuts, then soothes. It must feel effortless, not rehearsed, light enough to charm the crowd, sharp enough to undermine the threat. Laugh at yourself slightly, then at them subtly. Let them know you could humiliate them, but you're choosing not to. That restraint is terrifying. Used skillfully, humor becomes armor. It makes you likable, unpredictable, untouchable. People root for those who stay light under pressure, and threats, whether public or private, hate an audience that's laughing with you instead of fearing them. A joke, well-timed, can end a conflict before it begins. It turns the weapon back on the attacker, because no one wins a war against someone who makes people laugh and never flinches when they do. Let others fear offending you. Control isn't always taken by force. It's often handed over through fear. When people worry they might upset you, disappoint you, or cross an invisible line, they begin to police themselves on your behalf. They soften their tone, censor their words, second-guess their actions, not because you demanded respect, but because you made disrespect feel risky. That is subtle dominance. That is power without volume. You don't need to threaten. You don't need to raise your voice. A pause, a glance, a quiet withdrawal can do more than a confrontation. When someone offends you, real or imagined, you show just enough discomfort, just enough silence, just enough shift in energy that they feel it in their chest. And suddenly, they're over-explaining, apologizing, adjusting. They don't want to lose your warmth, your presence, your approval, and that anxiety becomes your leash on them. The secret is unpredictability. Never overreact, but never be too forgiving. Let your tolerance remain a question mark. That ambiguity creates tension. They don't know where the line is. They just know they don't want to cross it. So they behave, they flatter, they tiptoe, they defer, and you never had to say a word. This fear doesn't isolate you. It elevates you. It makes your attention feel rare, your approval meaningful. People lean in more when they're afraid of being pushed away, and in that leaning, they give you influence. Because the moment they fear offending you, they've already decided you matter more than they're willing to admit. Win slow to dominate long. Fast victories feel good, but they rarely last. Quick wins inflate the ego, attract attention, and stir resentment. But slow wins? They slip beneath the radar. They accumulate in silence. They don't just give you power, they anchor it. To dominate for the long run, you must be willing to win slowly, methodically, without applause, without urgency. Because true control isn't taken in a moment, it's layered one subtle move at a time. Impatience is the enemy of legacy. Most people want immediate recognition, quick revenge, instant results. They rush into battles they should delay, celebrate wins that cost them later, expose their ambition too soon. But when you play slow, when you resist the temptation to show your hand, you start winning in ways others don't even notice. You take positions quietly. You form alliances silently. You let others burn themselves out chasing visible success while you collect influence beneath the surface. And when the structure finally shifts, they'll look around wondering how you got so far ahead without ever appearing to move. Slow winning builds something fast. Winning never can. Security. Because while others are admired, you are trusted. While they conquer loudly, you are consulted. Their victories are cheered. Yours are woven into the system itself. Speed impresses. Patience controls. And when you win slowly, no one sees the threat until it's already rooted, accepted, permanent. You didn't just win a moment. You became the moment. You became the new normal. And that kind of dominance doesn't fade. It's inherited. Take the fall for what makes you rise. Sometimes the very thing that propels you forward will be the thing others resent. Your ambition, your decisiveness, your ability to bend rules, outmaneuver, outshine. And when the backlash comes, and it will come, the weak deny it, deflect it, try to wash their hands clean. But the powerful do the opposite. They own the fire. They take the fall, not as weakness, but as proof that they're the one willing to pay the price others avoid. When you admit what they're accusing you of, without shame, you turn their weapon into your badge. Yes, you made the bold move. Yes, you took control. Yes, you upset people. But look where you are now. Power doesn't require a clean image. It requires ownership. People may hate what you did, but they will respect that you didn't flinch when called out. Taking the fall strategically also shields your allies. You absorb the heat, preserve the structure, and tighten loyalty around you. Everyone remembers the one who stood in the storm without apology, the one who didn't collapse when fingers pointed. More than anything, it disarms critics. They want you to deny, to retreat, to explain yourself to death. But when you say, yes, I did it, and don't blink, they lose momentum. Their accusations land, but they don't break you. They confirm what you've already claimed, that you're the one who made the hard call. Sometimes power demands a scar. Wear it boldly, because when the dust settles, the one who dares to take the fall is already standing higher than the rest. Avoid gratitude. Engineer obligation. Gratitude fades. Obligation lingers. People may thank you for a favor, praise your kindness, even swear loyalty in the moment, but gratitude is a soft emotion. It warms, then cools. Obligation, on the other hand, burns. It tightens the chest. It keeps people awake. It makes them owe you, and that is far more powerful than being liked. To control someone long-term, don't just help them. Help them in a way that binds them. Do it when they're desperate. Do it when no one else will. Do it quietly. Then act like it was no big deal. The less you ask for in return, the more they'll feel the weight of the debt. And that guilt, that pressure, will drive them to repay you, sometimes without you ever having to ask. Gratitude inspires admiration. Obligation shapes behavior. You can engineer it subtly. Frame your favor as a sacrifice. Mention what it cost you, your time, your risk, your reputation, not as a complaint, but as a passing remark. Let it sink in, or, better yet, let someone else point it out. The goal isn't to beg for recognition, it's to make them feel indebted. And once they do, their pride will force them to rebalance the scales in your favor. Gratitude is a feeling. Obligation is a chain. Never trade real leverage for polite applause. If you're going to give in a way that stays with them, because a thank you fades. But the weight of what they owe you, that can last a lifetime and reshape their every move around yours. Encourage mistakes you benefit from. Most people rush to correct others' mistakes, eager to show superiority or maintain control. But when you truly understand power, you learn to let certain errors unfold, especially when those mistakes quietly serve your interests. The goal isn't to sabotage. It's to allow people the rope they need to tie their own hands, while you stand calmly in the shadows, ready to collect what falls from their stumble. Mistakes reveal weakness, expose blind spots, create openings. If someone is overconfident, let them speak more than they should. If they're careless, let them handle the delicate task. If they want control, let them take it, just long enough to slip. You don't stop them. You don't warn them. You encourage them with a smile, with false agreement, with subtle nudges that say, "You've got this," knowing they don't. Why? Because people learn nothing when you save them. But when they fail in public, you gain something far more valuable than a teaching moment. You gain position, you gain proof, you gain influence, and perhaps most importantly, you gain a reputation for being generous when you help after the fall. This tactic isn't about cruelty, it's about patience, knowing when to step back, when to let ego drive the wheel, when to let incompetence speak louder than accusation ever could. Because once they fall, they'll look to you for solutions, for guidance, for leadership. And in that moment, you become necessary. Let them make the wrong move, especially when the consequences push you one step closer to control. Let them teach you to lower their guard. The easiest way to gain someone's trust is not to show off what you know, but to let them show you. When people teach, advise, or correct you, their ego inflates. They feel smart, valuable, superior. And in that moment of superiority, their guard drops. They open up. They stop scanning for manipulation. Because why would someone who's learning from them be a threat? This is how you slip past defenses, not with force, but by inviting guidance. Ask a question you already know the answer to. Let them correct a mistake you made on purpose. Nod slowly. Be grateful. Let them explain something obvious. They won't see you studying their habits, their weaknesses, their priorities, because they're too busy enjoying the sound of their own wisdom. When someone teaches, they reveal what they think matters. They show you their values, their blind spots, their pride points. You're not just learning the lesson, they're giving you the blueprint to influence them. The more they talk, the more you gain. The more they think they're shaping you, the easier it becomes to reshape them. People trust those they feel they've helped. They become emotionally invested in your growth, even if it's staged. And once they believe they've raised you, guided you, built you, they stop protecting themselves from you. You become the student, the ally, the product of their brilliance. And by the time they realize who was really learning, it's too late, because you never argued your way past their guard. You thanked your way through it, cast doubt rather than prove guilt. Power isn't found in exposing people, it's found in making others question them. Proving someone's guilt takes evidence, effort, and risk. But casting doubt? That only takes a whisper, a pause, a perfectly timed question. You don't need to convince the room, they'll do it themselves, because suspicion, once planted, grows on its own, quietly, relentlessly. People want certainty, but they respond faster to uncertainty. One seed of doubt can undo a reputation, fracture a relationship, destabilize a leader. Not with confrontation, but with implication. Are you sure he said that? She's been acting a little off lately, hasn't she? Funny how that happened right after they showed up. These aren't accusations, they're invitations for others to do the dirty work of destruction for you. Doubt poisons trust faster than truth ever could. It lingers in silence. It shows up in how people look at someone, how they hesitate, how they pull back. Once doubt is there, every action gets reinterpreted. Every word sounds rehearsed. Even the innocent start to seem suspicious under its weight. This tactic works because it keeps your hands clean. You never claim, you never confront, you simply suggest, and others, needing resolution, connect the rest. They build the story you never had to finish. Use it sparingly or risk exposing yourself. But when used with precision, doubt becomes a scalpel. It doesn't cut loudly, it carves in silence. And by the time the subject feels it, the damage is already done. Act shocked when your plans work. Nothing makes success more disarming than pretending you never expected it. When your plans unfold exactly as you intended, don't gloat, don't claim mastery, act surprised, laugh at the coincidence, shrug like it was luck. This false humility softens the edges of your power and lulls people into underestimating your intent. It makes you appear harmless, while you tighten your grip. When you act shocked by your victories, others assume you're not calculating. They lower their guard. They think he stumbled into that. She got lucky. That wasn't strategy. And that's exactly what you want. Because while they're brushing off your rise as random, you're already preparing your next move, unwatched, unchallenged. This tactic also breeds trust. People feel safer around someone who doesn't flaunt control. They'll speak more freely, open up more deeply, and offer opportunities they would have withheld from someone who looked too smart. Your feigned surprise becomes a weapon of misdirection. They'll hand you more power thinking they're helping someone still figuring things out. Acting shocked also creates emotional camouflage. It makes you relatable. You don't intimidate, you inspire. You become the accidental genius, the modest winner, the underestimated architect. People admire success more when it doesn't feel forced, and they fear it less when it looks like fate. Let them think you tripped into your position. Let them laugh with you about how crazy it all is. Smile, downplay, distract, because the moment they stop watching for strategy is the moment you win your next victory. Quietly, perfectly, exactly as planned. Be everywhere without being found. The most powerful presence is the one that's felt, not seen. When your name moves through rooms you've never entered, when your influence is felt in decisions you didn't visibly touch, you've reached a level of control few can trace, let alone challenge. This is the art of being everywhere while remaining untouchable. People want to be known, recognized, praised. They crave credit, but visibility breeds vulnerability. The more they see you, the more they map you, your habits, your weaknesses, your limits. But when you pull back, when you remove your physical presence, yet maintain your reach, you become something more, mythic, unpredictable, uncontainable. You do this by working through others, through whispers, alliances, quiet favors, and strategic distance. You set ideas into motion without claiming them. You influence leaders through casual conversations. You plant questions, not orders. Let others speak your thoughts as their own. Let them feel ownership over plans that began with your nudge. You become a shadow in their victories, a ghost in their strategy. They may not even realize they're echoing you, but they are. And that's the beauty of it. You shape the environment without leaving fingerprints. People fear what they can't locate. They respect what they can't predict. And when they try to find the source of their discomfort, their curiosity, their change, they discover nothing but traces, because you were never meant to be seen, only felt. And the ones who are felt but never found are the ones no one can stop. Mirror, then magnify their flaws. The most devastating way to expose someone is not to confront them, but to reflect them. People hate seeing their flaws in others. It's unsettling. It strips their ability to judge, because what they mock in you becomes a mirror of what lives in them. And once you hold that mirror steady, you magnify it until their own behavior turns against them and they can't escape the reflection. Start by mirroring. Match their tone. Imitate their arrogance, their passive aggression, their condescension, but just enough to trigger recognition. Do it subtly, casually. Let them hear their own voice in yours, their own tricks on your tongue. The discomfort will be immediate. They'll either backpedal or lash out, because deep down, no one wants to face who they really are. Then, slowly, turn the volume up. Amplify their behavior to the point where it becomes absurd. If they belittle, you exaggerate their sarcasm. If they guilt trip, you take it further than they ever would. You're not mocking. You're mirroring with intensity. And in doing so, you make them confront the ugliness they thought was invisible. This tactic doesn't just reveal flaws, it weaponizes them. It forces the person to see themselves not through confrontation, but through imitation. And the more they try to criticize you for it, the more they expose the behavior in themselves. People can argue with your opinion. They can deny your accusations, but they cannot escape their own reflection, especially when it's larger, louder, and thrown right back in their face. Be a rumor in powerful rooms. The most dangerous form of presence is not a body in the room. It's a name whispered when you're not there. When powerful people start saying your name in half-finished sentences, in questions, in curiosity, you're no longer a person. You're a force, a rumor, and rumors have more reach than reputations. Don't beg for seats at the table. Let them wonder why you weren't invited. Let them ask each other, have you met him? What's her angle? That's how influence begins, not with applause, but with uncertainty, not with introduction, but with intrigue. When you become a subject of speculation, you gain value without exposure. They project power onto you simply because you don't explain yourself. To become a rumor, you must move indirectly. Make your work visible, but keep yourself elusive. Let your ideas travel through other people's mouths. Help someone win, quietly. Solve a problem without signing your name. Let others speak your brilliance while you remain distant. It confuses the room. They don't know where you came from, only that you're somehow already in. The elite respect mystery more than noise. If they know everything about you, they know how to stop you. But if you're just almost known, half glimpsed, half feared, half understood, they become cautious. They start building narratives around you. And a narrative, once it spreads, is harder to kill than fact. Be a rumor. Not desperate to be seen, just impossible to forget. Because once your name becomes a question in powerful rooms, you've already entered them. Without knocking, reward betrayal selectively. Betrayal is currency. It can destroy you or enrich you, depending on how you use it. When someone turns against another for your benefit, don't immediately dismiss them as disloyal. See the value. Treason is a test. And those who risk their alliances to stand beside you may become your fiercest weapons if you reward them strategically. But not all betrayal deserves reward. If you embrace every turncoat, you signal weakness, desperation for loyalty. Worse, you invite chaos. Loyalty that shifts too easily is not power, it's poison. The key is selective recognition. You reward the betrayal that serves your design, exposes your enemy, or tips the balance in your favor, but only just enough to make others consider doing the same. Make it clear that betrayal alone isn't enough. It must be useful, well-timed, and performed with skill. Let others see that treachery can lead to elevation, but not without conditions. This creates a quiet current of paranoia in your rivals' ranks. Who can be trusted? Who's already crossed lines? Who's waiting for the right moment to switch sides? The brilliance lies in keeping everyone uncertain. You don't need mass loyalty. You need strategic defectors, people close enough to hurt your enemies, people who whisper in the right ears, People whose betrayal becomes a tool, not a threat. Reward them in private with power, protection, or position, but never fully. They must always want more, because when betrayal becomes ambition, you don't just fracture your opponent's base. You plant hunger in those still pretending to be loyal. And hunger rewrites allegiance faster than fear ever could. Control tempo, force reactions. Pace is power. The one who controls the tempo of interaction controls the direction of it. Speed things up and you force mistakes. Slow things down and you force discomfort. When you master tempo, you don't just lead, you manipulate. You dictate how others feel when they speak, what they reveal, and how they break. Fast talking, fast decisions, fast pressure. They overwhelm. They leave no room for doubt or strategy. People get swept up, say yes before thinking, nod before questioning. Use speed when you want compliance, not contemplation. Make the moment feel urgent, create a storm, and walk them through it while they're too dizzy to resist. But when you want power over someone's mind, slow everything down. Stretch silence. Pause before answering. Let discomfort grow in the space you refuse to fill. People panic in stillness. They fidget, over-explain, expose their insecurities, while you sit calm, measured, unreadable. Tempo breaks rhythm. It's how you disrupt confidence, shift momentum, seize control without touching force. You can diffuse an attack by slowing it, or launch one by accelerating when they're unready. You become unpredictable, not erratic, but dangerous in your timing. Never match their pace. That means they're setting it. You set it. And once they follow your rhythm, they're no longer thinking independently. They're reacting. And the one who reacts is the one who loses. Because power isn't just in what you say or do, it's when you do it. Control the tempo, and you control them. Use morality as a smokescreen. Few things are more untouchable than moral conviction. People will challenge your logic, question your motives, attack your ambition, but if they believe you're acting on principle, they hesitate. Morality cloaks intention. It makes power moves look pure, ambition look noble, manipulation look like justice. When used carefully, morality becomes the most elegant disguise for control. The key is not to be moral, it's to appear moral, loudly, consistently, and convincingly. Frame your actions as doing what's right. Speak in the language of fairness, duty, and conscience. Use moral outrage to rally allies, to silence critics, to cast opponents as villains, not just wrong, but immoral. Once the battle is framed as good versus evil, your enemies are no longer people with different views. They're threats to righteousness itself, and threats don't deserve mercy. People want to believe in heroes. They're desperate for meaning, for causes, for something to stand behind. If you offer that, if you give them a war they can feel good about, they'll follow you blindly. They'll defend you, repeat your words, even attack others on your behalf, thinking they're serving something higher. All the while, you're advancing your goals beneath the surface, untouched and unquestioned. This tactic doesn't require lies, just selective truth. Highlight the injustice you oppose. Ignore the power it earns you. Let others wear your flag. March in your name. Fight your enemies with righteous fury, while you remain calm, collected, and above suspicion. Because when morality speaks, most stop listening for motive, and that silence is where real power thrives. Align with the inevitable. Fighting the inevitable is noble in storybooks and suicidal in strategy. Real power lies not in resistance, but in recognition. When you sense a shift coming, a collapse, a trend, a rising force, you don't oppose it, you ride it. You wrap yourself in its momentum and emerge as if you were leading it all along. The future is the most powerful force on earth. Align with it, and people will follow you thinking you're the cause, not the effect. Most lose power trying to preserve the past. They defend what's fading, clinging to structures already cracking. But those who rise are the ones who recognize when the tide is turning and move with it, even if it costs pride, even if it means betraying the old order they once helped build, because legacy means nothing if it doesn't survive. You don't have to like what's coming, you just have to position yourself correctly within it, speak its language, echo its values, appear to embody the change before anyone else dares to. That's how leaders are born, by appearing to step into the unknown first, even if they were dragged by it. Let others waste energy denying reality. You will reshape it by surrendering to its flow at the exact moment it becomes unstoppable. People will think you predicted it, that you were made for this new world, but in truth, you just knew when to stop fighting and when to merge. Power doesn't always roar forward. Sometimes it yields strategically, because the one who bows to the inevitable today becomes the one who controls its story tomorrow. Make peace loudly, plot quietly. Power often wears the mask of peace. The louder you declare unity, forgiveness, and reconciliation, the more invisible your true moves become. When people believe the conflict is over, they stop watching. They relax, they disarm, and that's when you begin the real strategy, the real positioning, the quiet reshaping of the game. Declare peace with fanfare, smile wide, shake hands in public, apologize if you must. Let the world believe the war is behind you. Use words like growth, healing, moving on. Your enemies will feel safe. Your allies will feel proud. Everyone will breathe easier. Meanwhile, in the background, you are building alliances, collecting leverage, identifying weak points, patiently, methodically, in total silence. Loud peace earns trust. Quiet plotting earns control. The beauty of this approach lies in contrast. The more sincere you appear, the less anyone suspects your hand. You kill suspicion by overfeeding it hope, and when you finally make your move, it looks like destiny, not deception. This tactic is older than empires. Kings married off daughters to stop wars while secretly training armies. Rivals signed treaties at noon and planned assassinations by nightfall. In modern form, it's diplomacy with a dagger in its sleeve. The performance of unity covers the reality of domination. Just be sure your peace is believable. Let them believe they won. Let them believe you've softened. Then step into the space their relief creates and use it, because nothing is more dangerous than the one who smiles with an empty sword hand while the other sharpens in the dark. Give them the illusion of choice. People will fight control, but they will embrace autonomy, even if it's a lie. If you want obedience without resistance, don't issue commands. Offer options. Let them choose. Let them feel empowered. Just make sure every path leads exactly where you want it to go. This is the illusion of choice, a powerful psychological trap that makes people complicit in their own manipulation. Humans crave agency. They hate feeling cornered, but when you hand them a decision, this or that, now or later, my way or your way, they shift from defensive to cooperative. They weigh, they select, they convince themselves they're in control. But you already built the outcome. You planted both exits in the same room. The choice is real only on the surface. This tactic turns resistance into cooperation. It transforms control into participation. You're no longer forcing their hand. They're using it. They feel intelligent, independent, respected. Meanwhile, you walk them down a hallway with no locked doors because you designed it that way. It works in negotiations, leadership, parenting, even war. Never tell them what must happen. Let them choose between two futures, both of which you've quietly engineered. Smile while they debate. Nod as they deliberate. It doesn't matter what they pick. It matters that you shape the boundaries of the decision itself. People don't rebel against choices they believe they made. They defend them. They explain them. They live with them. So don't take power. Hand it to them, hollowed out, dressed up, and already wired to explode in your favor. Repeat lies until they look like facts. Truth is not what's real, it's what's believed. And belief isn't built through evidence, it's built through repetition. The mind clings to what it hears often, not what is proven. A lie, repeated with calm certainty and unwavering rhythm, begins to feel familiar. And once it feels familiar, it feels safe, then true, then unchallengeable. This is how propaganda works, how rumors become reputations, how myths replace history. The power lies not in the lie itself, but in how often it echoes. People stop questioning something they've heard enough times. They forget where it came from. They forget whether they doubted it to begin with. Repetition drowns skepticism. To use this, choose your lie carefully. Make it simple. Sharpen it into a phrase that sticks. Then repeat it, verbally, casually, through others, in writing, in silence. Let others carry it for you, believing they're spreading truth. Correct them softly when they misquote it, not to deny, but to reaffirm. Always speak it as if it's already understood, as if only a fool would question it now. Facts exhaust people. Complexity bores them. But a well-placed familiar lie, that gives them comfort. It gives them certainty. And in a world of noise, people grab onto the things they've heard the most, especially when those things confirm what they want to believe. So speak your fiction with confidence, bury it in repetition, and by the time truth stumbles in, breathless and late, the crowd will have already chosen the voice they trust, yours. Never solve their root problem. Solving someone's root problem frees them. It makes them whole. It ends their need for you. And if power is your goal, that is the last thing you want. You don't want resolution. You want reliance. So give relief, not rescue. Soothe the symptoms. Offer solutions that ease the pressure just enough, but never pull the problem out at the root, because the longer it lives, the longer you remain essential. People are driven by pain, longing, frustration, and when you become the one who understands it, who helps but never quite fixes, you embed yourself into their life like a thread they can't untangle. They come back for advice, guidance, comfort, and they'll keep coming because something always lingers. They think you're trying your best. They never see that you've already decided how far you're willing to go. This tactic isn't about cruelty, it's about control. Solving a problem ends the cycle, but managing a problem creates a loop you can predict, manipulate, and profit from. This is how therapists create dependency, how politicians sustain voters, how toxic mentors maintain influence. They nurture just enough growth to look helpful, but not enough to create independence. You're not the cure, you're the caretaker. You frame yourself as the one who understands their struggle, who's trying while others ignore it. They'll thank you, defend you, stay loyal, and yet, deep down, they'll never quite get better because you never let them. You just keep offering the next dose of relief, and in their desperation to feel whole, they never notice who's holding the leash. Keep the powerful bored, not threatened. The fastest way to become a target is to look interesting to the wrong eyes. Power protects itself by eliminating what feels unpredictable, ambitious, or dangerously clever. If those above you feel threatened, even slightly, they will not attack openly. They'll isolate you, slow you down, smile as they cut your influence off at the roots. That's why your greatest survival strategy near power is not to impress, but to bore. Let them see you as reliable, dull, even a little slow. Don't outshine, don't overperform. Do just enough to stay useful, but never enough to spark envy. Speak modestly, ask questions, appear grateful, loyal, maybe even naive. While their attention drifts elsewhere, toward louder rivals, bigger egos, you're free to build quietly underneath them. Boredom is camouflage. It makes powerful people look past you, never through you, and in that blind spot, you gain ground. You form alliances, gather leverage, learn their habits, study their weaknesses, all while smiling humbly and nodding at their jokes. If they think you want their throne, they'll never stop watching you. But if they think you want to guard it, or better yet, if they think you couldn't handle it at all, they'll leave you alone. And that is the moment you become dangerous. The most effective threat to power is the one that doesn't feel like a threat until it's already too late. Stay beneath their hunger, beneath their pride. Keep them comfortable, keep them entertained, keep them bored, and one day they'll look up, confused, wondering how you got so close. Simplify your image, complicate theirs. Power favors clarity. The simpler you appear, the easier it is for others to underestimate you, trust you, or follow you. People are drawn to clean lines, an identity they can quickly define, categorize, and feel safe around. So give them that, a version of yourself that's consistent, predictable, even a little boring, a single story they can hold on to, while you hold on to your freedom to move unseen. Meanwhile, do the opposite to them. Complicate their image, exaggerate their contradictions, highlight their inconsistencies, cast doubt on their intentions, not through accusations but through questions. I thought she believed in transparency. That's strange coming from someone who preaches loyalty. Let others start to wonder, what does this person really stand for? This tactic shifts perception without ever needing a direct attack. People trust what's simple. They distrust what feels layered, unclear, or morally gray. When someone's image becomes tangled, they start to lose control of their narrative. They're forced to defend, explain, backtrack, while you stand firm in your role, untouched, seemingly authentic. The brilliance is in the contrast. You become the steady presence. They become the question mark. And in a world overloaded with noise and contradictions, clarity becomes magnetic. It breeds confidence, lowers suspicion, and makes people choose you again and again. Your power lies in being easy to follow, hard to predict. Their weakness comes from being hard to follow, easy to question. Keep your mask clean. Let theirs crack under the weight of confusion. And in that imbalance, you win without ever lifting a weapon. Distract with pleasure while you plan pain. Pleasure is the perfect smokescreen. While people are laughing, celebrating, basking in your warmth, they're not watching your hands. They're not sensing your shift. They don't notice the silence before the strike. This is how real power moves, not through open aggression, but through calculated charm. You give them sweetness to blind them. You feed their joy while you prepare their fall. This tactic works because pleasure dulls suspicion. When someone feels entertained, desired, comforted, or flattered, their mind softens. They stop looking for danger. They confuse kindness with safety. And that's when you begin shaping the consequences they'll never see coming. You don't have to lie. You just have to delight them. Keep them drunk on comfort while your blade gets sharper. Use gifts, jokes, seduction, opportunity, whatever it takes to make them feel like they're winning. Let them think they're close to you, even above you. The more secure they feel, the more unguarded they become. And when the moment comes, they won't even realize how long you've been leading them to it. Pain, when it arrives after pleasure, hits harder. It creates shock. It rewrites the narrative. They question themselves before they ever question you. How did I not see it? Was it real? Did I deserve it? And while they spiral in confusion, you move on untouched, your power intact, your hands clean, your mask still smiling. Because pleasure isn't just a distraction, it's anesthesia, and no one screams until it wears off. Praise ambition, punish ambition. Ambition is dangerous, but it's also useful. It drives people to perform, to chase, to build in your name, so you praise it. You reward the hunger. You speak of vision, leadership potential, a bright future. You make them feel seen, chosen, destined. And once they've stepped fully into the fire, once they've exposed their desire, you tighten the leash. Because ambition left unchecked becomes rebellion. It turns allies into rivals. So you set a trap, celebrate their drive, then punish it when it reaches too far, subtly, quietly, not with fury, but with friction. You stall their progress. You reroute their wins. You deny them the moment they've earned, then call it timing, politics, just not yet. They'll be confused, hurt, but also hopeful because you still believe in them, right? You said so. They'll try harder. They'll work more. And the more they invest, the more deeply they sink into your game. You keep them chasing a carrot they can never quite touch. That's how ambition becomes a collar. This tactic sends a message to everyone watching. Ambition is welcome, but only if it never threatens the throne. Others will check themselves. They'll calculate. They'll stay hungry, but quiet. And in that silence, you maintain order. Ambition is not to be destroyed. It's to be managed, because the most effective way to control a future rival is to hand them a dream and the invisible ceiling that keeps it just out of reach. Make scarcity seem self-imposed. Scarcity breeds desire, but only when it looks like a choice. If people think you're unavailable because you're being rejected, overlooked, or ignored, they lose interest. But if they believe you're scarce by design, withdrawing your presence, limiting your time, choosing when to engage, you become magnetic. You become the person they can't reach, can't read, can't quite hold, and therefore can't stop wanting. Scarcity, when framed as self-control, signals power. It tells the world you're not desperate, not chasing, not needing. You don't flood the room, you select your moments, and those moments feel like events. People hang on them. They replay what you said, what you wore, how long you stayed, because rare things aren't just valuable, they're haunting. The trick is never to announce it. Don't say you're too busy or too important. Just disappear sometimes. Be quiet in loud rooms. Leave while they still want more. Decline invitations without apology. Make them wonder if they earned your attention or if you simply allowed it. When done right, this creates mystique. People begin to talk about you more than to you. They fill in gaps with fantasy. Your silence becomes intrigue. Your distance becomes status. And all of it was carefully crafted, not by being absent, but by being selectively present. You don't become powerful by being everywhere. You become powerful by being missed. And when they finally get a moment with you, it won't matter what you say, because the room will already believe it's rare. Borrow their language, twist their cause. The most powerful way to defeat an opponent is not to attack their beliefs, but to adopt them. Speak their language, echo their values, repeat their slogans, then slowly twist them. Reframe the meaning, bend the direction until what they once stood for now points directly at you. They won't even see it happening because it still sounds like them. People anchor themselves in identity, movements, ideologies, missions. They wrap their pride in words like justice, progress, loyalty, truth. When you take those words and use them more eloquently, more persuasively, more publicly, you strip them of ownership. You become the louder, more polished version of their cause, and in doing so, you split their base. You attract the confused, the moderate, the uncertain, those who don't notice that the flag now carries a different emblem. Don't oppose, absorb, say what they say, then inject your meaning. This is justice, you say, while flipping the victim and the villain. This is freedom, you say, while tightening control. Let them rage. Let them scream. You've twisted it. The more outraged they get, the more defensive they look. And you're just carrying the message forward. Cleaner, clearer, more effective. This is how movements are stolen, how revolutions are rerouted. You don't destroy their cause, you hijack it. And once their followers see you as the stronger messenger, their original leader becomes the ghost. When you control the language, you control the meaning. And once you control the meaning, you've already won the war without firing a shot. Protect your ideas by disguising them as theirs. The surest way to have your ideas accepted and protected is to make others believe they came up with them. People will resist your brilliance if it threatens their ego. They'll argue with genius if it doesn't belong to them. But if you plant a thought subtly, gently, and let it bloom in their voice, they'll guard it with their pride. They'll fight for your vision without ever realizing it's yours. The mind is territorial. It bonds with what it creates. So when someone believes an idea is theirs, they become emotionally invested in it. They nurture it, defend it, improve it. That's why your most powerful concepts don't need your name. They need your absence. Step back, sow the seed, then go silent. Offer a nudge, ask a question, mention a thought you once heard. Let the silence do the rest. This tactic protects you in two ways. First, your idea can grow without triggering competition or envy. Second, if it fails, you're untouched. If it succeeds, the person who believes they own it will spread it further, faster, and more fiercely than you ever could. It's not about stealing credit from yourself. It's about giving your ideas a better chance to survive. Because the world rarely welcomes brilliance with open arms, but it always embraces something it thinks it already believes. So let them speak your truth in their own voice. Let them bask in the glory of their breakthrough. You'll lose the spotlight, but you'll gain the outcome. And that's the only credit that ever really matters. Let chaos justify your control. People fear instability more than tyranny. When the world feels uncertain, when systems break, norms collapse, and no one knows what to trust, they don't crave freedom. They crave order. They want someone to take the wheel, to restore balance, to protect them, even if that protection comes at a price. This is where you rise, not by silencing chaos, but by allowing it to spread just far enough that your grip feels like salvation. You don't always need to create the chaos. You just need to survive it while others crumble. Let the noise grow. Let institutions falter. Let people panic, fight, divide. And when the confusion peaks, when the fear begins to outweigh the pride, you step forward, calm, decisive, in control. You offer clarity, rules, safety, not because you want power, but because someone has to. That illusion of reluctant leadership makes your grip harder to question. The beauty of this tactic is in the timing. If you seize control too early, you look like a threat. Too late, and someone else claims the crown. But if you emerge just as people start begging for structure, they won't resist your authority. They'll welcome it. And once they accept your control in chaos, they'll learn to rely on it in peace. What began as a temporary solution becomes the new normal. They won't even remember what freedom felt like. They'll only remember who saved them. Because nothing makes a chain feel comforting like the memory of fire. Let the flames rise, then offer the only water in sight. Frame restraint as strategy. In a world addicted to urgency, restraint looks like weakness unless you reframe it. When you hold back, pause, say less, or do nothing at all, people instinctively fill in the silence. They assume you're unsure, intimidated, indecisive. That is until you redefine your stillness as strategy. Suddenly, your restraint becomes terrifying, powerful, deliberate. It shifts from passivity to calculation in their minds. And that shift gives you control. You don't always need to act to win. Sometimes the most effective move is to wait. But don't call it patience, call it positioning. Don't say you're thinking, say you're watching. Make them believe your silence isn't hesitation, but timing. That you could respond, could strike, could reveal more, but you're choosing not to. Because when people believe you're holding back by choice, they fear what you might do next. This creates pressure, uncertainty. They begin to react to your stillness as if it were action. They overexplain, overcommit, overreach, trying to fill the vacuum you've carefully created, and all the while you remain calm, unreadable, unshaken. Restraint framed as strategy also protects your image. You don't appear desperate. You don't look emotional. You look in control. Even when things go wrong, you can say, "It was all part of the plan," and people will believe it because you never flinched. Let others chase speed, noise, and attention. You master tension, silence, and timing. Make them wonder what you're waiting for, then wait longer, because when restraint is seen as power, not passivity, you become the threat they can't predict. Defend nothing, counter with questions. The moment you defend yourself, you've already lost ground. Defense is reaction. It signals guilt, insecurity, or weakness, even when you're right. The more you explain, the more you look like you're begging to be understood. Power doesn't explain. It redirects, it reframes, it asks. When challenged, criticized, or accused, resist the urge to justify. Stay still, stay calm, then respond, not with denial, not with defense, but with a question. Why do you ask that? What makes you say that? Is that how you see it? These aren't answers. They're mirrors. They put the pressure back where it belongs, on the accuser. Questions destabilize. They force the other person to reveal their motives, their logic, their emotions. Suddenly, they're the ones talking too much, scrambling to clarify, exposing assumptions. And while they try to regain footing, you stay poised, unshaken, unreadable. This tactic makes you appear above the noise, mysterious, in control. It buys you time, diffuses tension, and shifts the conversation from conflict to curiosity. You're not avoiding the issue, you're owning the frame around it. Defending invites argument, but asking makes people reflect, hesitate, soften. It flips the dynamic. You're no longer on trial. They are. You never play the game they want. You make them play yours, because power isn't in having the right answers. It's in knowing when to ask the kind of question that makes everyone else doubt theirs. Erase footprints, leave shadows. Power fades the moment it's too easy to trace. The more visible your hand, the more people learn how to stop you. That's why the most effective players erase their footprints, removing direct evidence, deflecting credit, denying authorship, while leaving just enough shadow to haunt the room. You don't need to be seen to be felt. In fact, the less they know, the more they imagine. Footprints tie you to outcomes. They bring accountability, resistance, revenge. But shadows suggest presence without exposure. You were there. But how? When? Why? No one is certain. That uncertainty is your weapon. It spreads rumors, fear, admiration. People speak your name in whispers, trying to connect the dots. And in that confusion, you become untouchable. Let others crave credit. Let them post, boast, claim responsibility. You move differently, quietly. Delegate the message. Plant the idea through another's voice. Influence the decision, but vanish before the ink dries. When someone looks for the architect, they'll find only outcomes, never fingerprints. Even in destruction, remain blurred. Let the fall look accidental. Let your enemies self-sabotage while you appear uninvolved. Let praise land on someone else while you gain the leverage it creates. You don't need to be seen winning to be winning. The shadow creates legend. It builds mystique. A clear trail ends with a target. A shadow becomes a story, one that grows, mutates, and outlives you. Be the presence that can't be proven, the one they blame, admire, fear, but can never quite name, because footprints are evidence, shadows are power. Destroy symbols, not systems. People don't cling to systems. They cling to the symbols that represent them. Flags, titles, faces, rituals, traditions. These are the emotional anchors that give power its illusion of permanence. If you attack the system directly, people resist. They panic. They defend it blindly. But if you shatter the symbols, you loosen the system's grip without ever needing to confront it head on. A symbol is fragile, yet sacred. Tear it down, expose its hypocrisy, or mock it, and the myth begins to fracture. People start to question. They start to see the machinery behind the curtain. Once the symbol falls, the system that depended on it slowly crumbles from within. This is how revolutions truly begin, not with bombs, but with broken statues, not with laws, but with doubt. You don't dismantle the structure, You infect the belief in it, undermine the rituals, ridicule the language, replace the face of power with something absurd, something human, something less than sacred, and soon what once felt untouchable becomes disposable. Meanwhile, the deeper system, the one you're aiming to inherit, remains intact. Its architecture still works. You haven't destroyed it. You've simply removed the loyalties that protected it, and now those empty halls are yours to fill. Always strike first at what people feel, because once their emotional connection fades, their logical defenses collapse. The throne becomes just a chair, the crown just metal, the nation just paper, and when they realize that, they won't fight you for the system. They'll thank you for revealing what it truly was. Fuel conflict, you quietly referee. The fastest way to gain control is not to take sides, but to create them. When two forces are too strong to conquer directly, you don't attack, you divide. You provoke, you whisper, you plant doubt. Then you step back and become the calm voice between the storm. While they rage against each other, you rise, not as the aggressor, but as the referee. Conflict consumes energy. It blinds, distracts, and exposes. When people are fighting each other, they're not watching you. They're spilling secrets, burning bridges, weakening their positions, while you remain untouched. Better yet, they begin to rely on you for peace, for perspective, for guidance. The very chaos you created becomes the stage where you appear stable, wise, essential. The key is subtlety. You never push too hard. A question here, a comparison there, a compliment that feels like a jab, a suggestion that feels like a warning. Let them finish the war you softly began. Let their pride do the work. Then, when the tension explodes, be the one offering solutions. Be the voice of balance, of reason, of power. This tactic creates dependency. Once they've tasted the fire, they'll cling to your calm. You become the one person who understands both sides, the broker, the strategist, the hidden center of a storm that never touches you. Just don't gloat. Don't reveal your hand. Let them think the fight was inevitable. Let them believe you saved them from it, because the one who controls the conflict without entering it becomes more than powerful. They become necessary. Give them drama, hide your designs. People crave distraction, conflict, gossip, emotion. They gravitate to it like moths to flame. If you want to operate without interference, don't silence the noise. Feed it. Give them drama. Feed their appetite for spectacle, outrage, and sides to choose. While they argue, panic, and react, your real moves unfold in silence. Clean, focus, unseen. This is how you disappear in plain sight. Create tension somewhere else. Spark a feud. Leak a rumor. Stage a crisis. It doesn't have to be real. It just has to be loud. People will swarm to it. They'll choose villains and heroes. They'll spread the story for you, believing they've uncovered the heart of the matter. Meanwhile, the real heart, your strategy, your ambition, your advance, remains untouched. This tactic works because attention is finite. When people feel emotionally involved, they stop thinking critically. They follow narratives, not facts. They react to tone, not truth. And in that haze, you move. You negotiate, restructure, align forces, while they obsess over characters in a play you wrote just to keep their eyes off you. Let them gossip about the puppet show. Let them scream about the decoy. Let them feel powerful for having an opinion. You're not avoiding attention. You're shaping it, redirecting it, weaponizing their hunger for drama as a shield for your precision. Because when the curtain finally falls and they realize where the real action was, they'll applaud the show, never noticing the empire you built behind the stage. Make retreat look like rebellion. To the world, retreat often looks like failure, unless you reframe it as defiance. Walking away from a job, a deal, a relationship, or a stage of life can make you look weak, scared, defeated. But if you control the narrative, retreat becomes an act of power, not an escape, but a refusal. Not surrender, but rejection of the terms. And when done right, it sends a louder message than staying ever could. People fear backing down because they fear judgment. But perception is everything. Leave loudly, but with precision. Let them see that you could have stayed, that you chose not to. Say, this place is too small for what I'm building. Say, I'm not here to beg for crumbs when I could bake my own. Create the impression that stepping back is an attack on mediocrity, not an escape from pressure. The power lies in the posture. Don't shrink. Stand tall. Don't explain. Declare. When others retreat quietly, they vanish. When you retreat with intent, you linger. You shake the walls as you walk out. You leave behind uncertainty, discomfort, curiosity. And suddenly, the exit becomes a spectacle, a movement, a warning. Even if you've lost, even if you've been cornered, retreat can still be rebranded as revolution. They didn't defeat you. You chose to disrupt the system. You're not gone. You're regrouping for something bigger. Because when you make retreat look like rebellion, they don't see someone backing down. They see someone about to rise. And that fear, that's where your next power begins. Stay unpredictable, not erratic. Predictability breeds comfort. It makes people feel like they've figured you out, like they can anticipate your moves, preempt your strategy, control your pace. That's why true power thrives in unpredictability, not chaos, not recklessness, but calculated unpredictability, enough to keep them off balance, never enough to lose control. The goal is not to confuse everyone. The goal is to make no one fully sure of you. Act generous, then distant. Agree with one side, then surprise them by shifting. Be calm when they expect fury. Be silent when they expect an answer. Every time they start to define you, change shape, not to amuse, not to shock, but to remain ungraspable, an idea, not a pattern. This creates psychological pressure. People become hesitant around you. Careful. They second-guess what to say, how to act. They play defense even when you're standing still. That tension is leverage. While they try to decode your intentions, you stay 3 steps ahead, free to pivot, to strike, or simply to vanish. But never confuse unpredictability with being erratic. Erratic behavior is unstable. It's driven by impulse, emotion, desperation. It loses respect. It breaks trust. Unpredictability, when done right, still feels deliberate. Even your surprises carry intention. Even your silence has weight. People respect what they can't read. They fear what they can't predict. And they obsess over what they can't control. So keep them watching, keep them wondering, but never let them know whether your next move is a handshake or a blade. That's not chaos. That's dominance in disguise. Exaggerate your threats, minimize your acts. Power often lies more in what people believe you might do than in what you actually do. When you exaggerate your threats, make them seem larger, more unpredictable, more devastating, you plant fear. Anticipation becomes your weapon. Doubt becomes your ally. And while others are busy defending against your imagined wrath, you can move quietly, precisely, with far less effort than they expect. Threats don't need to be explicit. They can live in tone, silence, implication, a glance held too long, a sentence left unfinished, a smile that doesn't reach your eyes. Let people imagine the consequences. They will always invent something worse than the reality. And fear of the unknown is far more paralyzing than fear of something defined. At the same time, underplay your actual moves. Keep them clean, surgical, quiet. If you're going to strike, strike small and sharp. If you're going to punish, do it once. Then step back and say nothing. Let the damage speak for itself. Let your opponent wonder if it was just a warning or the beginning of something bigger. That uncertainty holds more psychological power than 100 loud attacks. This balance, loud threats, quiet execution, keeps you in control. It creates an aura of danger while conserving your energy. You don't need to be cruel. You just need to be feared. And fear, once established, spreads on its own. Because when people believe you're capable of anything, you rarely have to do much at all. They'll cage themselves just to avoid waking the beast you've never had to unleash. Raise the cost of attacking you. To stay powerful, it's not enough to win battles. You must prevent them. The most effective way to do that is by making every potential attack feel like a risk not worth taking. You don't need to be invincible. You just need to make the cost of crossing you too high, too messy, too unpredictable to be worth the effort. This doesn't mean you fight every time. It means when you do respond, it leaves scars. You retaliate in ways that sting long after the conflict ends, socially, emotionally, strategically. The attacker loses more than they gain: influence, time, reputation, control. Others watch what happens and decide it's safer to stand beside you or stay silent than to challenge your position. You build this reputation over time. You let 1 or 2 attacks through on purpose. Then you crush them publicly, methodically, memorably, not just to punish, but to teach. Make an example out of those who test you, so the next would-be challenger thinks twice, or never acts at all. You also raise the cost by making yourself valuable. Connect yourself to others' comfort, success, protection. When people rely on you, attacking you threatens their own position. That's not defense, it's deterrence. It's a quiet, constant reminder. If I fall, I take pieces of you with me. People attack what they think is isolated, weak, or reactionary. But when they believe you're too connected, too strategic, too costly to target, they stop swinging. You don't need to fight the war, you just need to make sure they fear starting one. Make promises they interpret their own way. The most powerful promises are the ones you never fully define. Speak just clearly enough to inspire hope, but leave enough ambiguity for people to hear what they want. Let them fill in the gaps with their desires, their fantasies, their assumptions. That way, no matter what you deliver or don't, you can never be accused of breaking your word, because technically, you never said it like that. People don't listen to what you say. They listen to what confirms their hopes. If they want loyalty, say, I'm here for you. If they want success, say, we'll rise together. If they crave validation, say, you deserve everything that's coming. Each phrase sounds meaningful, but says nothing precise. And in that space, they project their needs, not realizing the promised lives only in their mind. This technique works because it grants you flexibility. If things go wrong, you can redirect. That's not exactly what I meant. If things go right, you get credit for fulfilling something they invented. It's influence without accountability, a leash made from suggestion, not contract. And the beauty? People rarely confront vague promises. They doubt themselves first. Did I mishear? Did I expect too much? The guilt turns inward, while your reputation remains untouched. Make your words soft enough to mold, strong enough to echo. Let them attach meaning without your permission. Because when people choose to believe you said more than you did, they'll stay loyal, not to the truth, but to the version of you they've built inside their own head. Show what they want to believe. People don't follow truth, they follow confirmation. They aren't searching for who you are, they're searching for reflections of what they want to be real. So don't waste time convincing. Show them what they already want to believe. About you, about themselves, about the world. Feed their illusions, and they'll defend you as if defending themselves. This isn't about lies, it's about curated truth. If they want to believe you're noble, show restraint. If they crave strength, show dominance. If they worship loyalty, be seen sacrificing. Mirror their ideals back to them until they feel understood, even if you never said a word. People fall hardest not for who you are, but for who they imagine you are. The mind protects its beliefs. Once someone decides you're trustworthy, brave, gifted, chosen, they'll bend reality to preserve that image. They'll excuse your mistakes, ignore red flags, justify your silence, because to question you would mean questioning the version of the world they desperately need to hold on to. So, tailor your presence, adjust your energy, let them draw their own conclusions. Just make sure the path leads to the image you planted. You don't need to argue, you don't need to sell, you just need to be seen being what they already hope exists, because belief once sparked does the rest of the work for you, and the person who embodies someone else's ideal isn't just followed, they're defended, even when the truth is gone, even when the mask slips, because in their eyes, you were never pretending, you were proof. Work the whisper network. The loudest truths rarely shape the world, the whispered ones do. Power spreads not only through what's said in public, but through what's repeated in secret. Reputation, suspicion, influence, they're all carried faster and deeper through the channels no one admits exist. The whisper network is where real control lives. It's quiet, informal, and absolutely ruthless. To work it, you don't need to shout, you need to seed. Drop fragments of stories, ask carefully loaded questions, leak just enough to spark curiosity, never conclusion. Let others carry the message for you, believing it was their discovery. Gossip thrives, not when it's forced, but when it feels stolen. Make your influence feel like something overheard, not delivered. This underground current isn't just for spreading rumors, it's for listening. Pay attention to what's circulating beneath the surface. Who's nervous? Who's rising? Who's losing control? The Whisper Network reveals what official channels never will. It tells you who really matters, what fears are spreading, and where the ground is shifting long before the tremors reach the surface. Be invisible in it, but everywhere. Never confirm, never deny. Let your name surface without your voice. Be spoken about, not by choice, but by necessity. When people use your words to gain access, to feel informed, to warn or win favor, you've already won. Because in the end, public power is admired, but whispered power is obeyed. And those who control the rumors, the quiet suggestions, the looks exchanged in passing, they don't just shape the narrative, they own it. Play dumb, gather intelligence. The sharpest minds often hide behind the dullest smiles. When you appear clueless, people get careless. They explain too much. They underestimate you. They reveal what they would normally protect, because no one guards themselves against someone they don't take seriously. That's the beauty of playing dumb. You become invisible to suspicion while quietly absorbing everything. People crave superiority. Let them have it. Ask naive questions, misunderstand intentionally, let them feel smarter, wiser, in control. They'll talk longer, try to teach you, overshare, and in their effort to impress or correct you, they give you the blueprint. Their motives, insecurities, alliances, and fears, all laid bare under the false safety of your simplicity. This tactic is about control through invisibility. You don't compete for power, you gather it. You let others shine while you collect their secrets. You sit silently in the room, appearing detached, while noting every twitch, every contradiction, every whispered name. The key is restraint. Don't reveal how much you understand. Don't correct them even when they're wrong. Let them think you're harmless. Let them believe you're just lucky, just charming, just along for the ride. Because when you finally move, they won't be prepared. They'll still be underestimating you until it's far too late. Information is power, but unexpected intelligence, that's lethal. So wear the fool's grin if it gives you access. Nod while they monologue. Smile while they slip, because nothing is more dangerous than the person they forgot was watching until the moment they strike. Let them underestimate your reach. The greatest power move is not showing how far your influence stretches. It's letting them believe it doesn't stretch far at all. When people think your reach is limited, your resources few, your allies scarce, they behave carelessly. They speak too freely. They expose too much. And while they laugh at your small circle, your quiet presence, your seeming isolation, they fail to realize you're already inside their walls. Let them think you're local while you're global. Let them believe you're outnumbered while you're out-connecting. Don't boast about your relationships, your information, or the ears you have in the rooms they trust. Silence makes your reach seem short, but in truth, it's untraceable, and that's what makes it so dangerous. When someone underestimates your reach, they give you proximity without caution. They drop names, they reveal alliances, they plan out loud, and you simply listen, collect, file it all away. You don't need to react. You just need to be there, without them realizing who else you might touch, who else might be loyal to you, who else is watching through your eyes. Power revealed is power targeted, but power hidden becomes myth, a name that shows up where it shouldn't, a message that leaks before it's spoken, a consequence that arrives too soon, too clean, to be random. Let them map your front line while your influence moves quietly beneath the surface, because when they finally see how far your hand really reaches, it's only because it's already around their throat. Build altars to your failures. Failure is supposed to be shameful, something you bury, deny, rewrite. But when you turn your failures into monuments, when you display them boldly, unapologetically, even reverently, you take control of the story. You strip others of the power to use it against you. You say, yes, I fell, and look how high I've built from it. Most people run from their mistakes. They try to hide the cracks, but cracks are where the light gets in. And when you showcase your past defeats with pride, you become untouchable. Critics lose their aim. Enemies lose their angle. The very thing they wanted to use to shame you becomes your symbol of resilience, depth, and authority. Don't just admit your failures. Curate them. Name the moment. Own the loss. Frame the pain. Speak of it like legend. Tell people what it cost you, what it taught you, and how it remade you. Make the failure so iconic, so openly dissected, that no one else dares to weaponize it. You've already done it better than they ever could. This transforms you in the eyes of others. You're not just someone who survived, you're someone who absorbed the fire and walked out forged. It makes you relatable, but elevated, wounded, but powerful. They won't pity you, they'll admire you, because you didn't just survive your fall, you turned it into a foundation. So build your altars, light candles to your own collapse, let them stare, let them whisper, because while they bury their own failures in silence, you've turned yours into stone and climbed it. Replace truth with consistency. People don't follow truth, they follow what feels true, and nothing feels more true than something they've heard over and over in the same voice, with the same rhythm, told with the same unwavering conviction. Truth bends under pressure, but consistency builds trust, even when the facts behind it collapse. You don't have to be right. You have to be predictable. Say the same thing the same way until it becomes part of the air they breathe. Speak with confidence, not evidence. Repeat a lie until it becomes a belief until it becomes an identity. People cling to consistency because it offers certainty, and certainty is more comforting than reality. The more consistent you are, the less people fact-check you. They begin to rely on your tone, your presence, your emotional rhythm. Even when faced with contradiction, they'll rationalize it. He must know something we don't. She wouldn't say it that way if it weren't true. Their minds protect the pattern, not the content. Consistency also creates a shield. When your enemies attack your claims, your followers don't need counter-arguments. They just need you to stay the same, to stay calm, to stay firm. Consistency becomes its own kind of truth, not objective but emotional, psychological, felt. Don't shift with the facts. Don't apologize for yesterday. Repeat today like it's law. Build rhythm over reason, familiarity over proof, because truth can be broken, questioned, forgotten. But consistency feels right, and what feels right is right to those who no longer remember how to question it. Use nostalgia to push agendas. Nostalgia is memory dipped in gold. It smooths the past, erases the pain, and leaves only the warmth. People trust what feels familiar, even when it never truly existed. That's why nostalgia is one of the most powerful tools of influence, not for remembering, but for manipulating. When you invoke the past, you awaken emotion, and emotion is the doorway through which any agenda can walk in quietly, unchallenged. Say, let's bring back the good old days. Say, we've lost something real, something pure. Say it with sorrow. Say it with pride. People won't fact check. They'll feel. They'll remember how they felt, not what was. And in that glow, they'll believe almost anything you attach to it. A new rule, a new system, a new war. If it's framed as a return to something beloved, it feels less like change and more like coming home. Nostalgia bypasses logic. It doesn't argue. It whispers. It convinces people they already agree because it cloaks your agenda in memories they already cherish. Even if those memories are distorted, even if they're false, they won't care because nostalgia isn't about facts. It's about longing. Politicians, brands, leaders, and manipulators have used this for centuries. They don't promise the future. They promise the return to tradition, to identity, to comfort. And in that promise, they slide in control, restriction, domination, all disguised as restoration. If you can make people yearn, you can make them follow. So don't just tell them where you're going. Tell them you're taking them back, and they'll walk into your future, eyes fixed on a past that never really existed. Celebrate critics to absorb them. Critics want to fight. They feed on resistance. The moment you defend, deny, or dismiss them, you validate their role as opposition and strengthen their position. But if you celebrate them, if you acknowledge them, compliment their passion, even agree with parts of what they say, you drain their momentum, you confuse their audience, and slowly you absorb them. This tactic disarms the ego. A critic expects rejection. They don't expect a stage. Applaud their sharp thinking. Mention their name in rooms they can't enter. Quote them strategically, not to surrender, but to reframe. You take their criticism and fold it into your narrative, making it seem like it was part of your vision all along. Suddenly, they're not your opponent. They're your contributor, whether they like it or not. Done right, this erodes their power. Their followers lose the tension they were feeding on. Their outrage loses direction. If they keep attacking, they look bitter. If they stop, they look bought. Either way, you've made them choose between staying angry and becoming irrelevant. Even better, some critics will cross over, not because you silenced them, but because you honored them. You turned their defiance into influence. You made them feel heard, and for many, that's all it takes to switch sides. This isn't surrender. It's strategic embrace. You pull your enemy so close they can no longer breathe without your permission, because the fire outside your walls is dangerous, but the fire you place inside the hearth, that becomes yours, warm, controlled, and burning only when you decide it should. Trap them in their public words. The moment someone speaks in public, they build a cage around themselves, one made of pride, perception, and the need to appear consistent. People don't fear contradiction in private, but in public, in front of peers, followers, enemies, their words become chains, and if you're sharp, you can lock them in with a smile. Let them speak freely. Let them boast, commit, take moral stands, make promises, encourage it, even applaud it. Get their words on record, out loud, in writing, on display, not to praise them, but to use them later, because once someone has declared a position publicly, they feel forced to live up to it, even if the world changes, even if they regret it. Pride won't let them walk it back without bleeding credibility. This is where you strike. Wait until they face a decision that contradicts their past words, then gently remind them, but didn't you say? Show the quote, replay the clip, cite the speech. Let their own voice become the blade. You're not accusing, you're holding up a mirror they can't look away from. This tactic doesn't require you to argue or attack. It only requires memory, patience, precision. People trap themselves in their desire to be seen a certain way. You simply hold the key and choose when to lock the door, because the most effective form of control isn't telling someone what to do, it's forcing them to obey the version of themselves they created, and the more public their performance, the smaller the space they have to escape it. Silence opposition by elevating it absurdly. When someone challenges you, the expected move is to deny, refute, or suppress. But that only feeds the fire. It validates their voice, gives them something to push against. Instead, take their words and agree too much, amplify their claims, flatter their outrage, raise their message so high it collapses under its own absurdity. This is not resistance, it's exaggerated embrace, and it kills criticism by turning it into spectacle. Mockery invites retaliation, suppression invites martyrdom, but absurd elevation, it confuses, disorients, it forces your opponent into a corner they didn't build. Say, "That's an excellent point. Maybe we should rename the entire system after you." Or, "You're absolutely right. Let's put it on every billboard in the city." Smile while you say it. Say it like you mean it. In that moment, their critique loses edge. Their followers pause. The emotional charge drains out. You've taken the win from their rebellion by turning it into a parody. Their parody, spoken in your voice. And if they continue, they look foolish. If they back down, they look weak. Either way, they lose the gravity of opposition. This tactic reframes the argument without direct attack. You don't insult, you inflate. You wrap their idea in layers of irony and performance until it feels ridiculous to everyone watching, until the power they thought they had melts under laughter and confusion, because opposition thrives in tension. But when you lift it beyond reason, beyond seriousness, you starve it of oxygen, and all that's left is noise, echoing in a room no longer listening. Let enemies write your script, then flip it. When someone attacks you, mocks you, labels you, they're not just trying to hurt you, they're trying to define you. They want the world to see you through their lens, the fool, the fraud, the failure. Let them write your script, let them craft the insult, the rumor, the caricature, let them believe they've cornered you, and then flip it. There is power in owning what was meant to shame you. It disarms, it confuses. When you take the words your enemies use to destroy you and turn them into your armor, your fuel, your story, they lose control of the narrative. You transform insult into identity, weakness into weapon, and now the world watches as the script meant to bury you becomes the script that elevates you. Mockery becomes marketing, doubt becomes drama. You lean into what they thought you'd hide from, then twist it in a way they never expected. A failed project becomes the lesson I used to build the next empire. A scandal becomes the moment I woke up. A humiliation becomes the fire that forged me. The enemy wants to write your ending. Instead, you turn their words into your origin. You don't fight the script. They expect resistance. You steal it. And once it's yours, you rewrite the tone, the pace, the final scene. Because nothing infuriates a critic more than realizing their voice helped build the thing they tried to tear down. Let them give you their words. Then use those words to rise, louder, sharper, and absolutely unforgettable. Shame by contrast, not confrontation. Direct confrontation puts people on defense. It triggers pride, resistance, even retaliation. But contrast? Contrast is silent, cold, and devastating. You don't call someone out. You simply stand beside them, embodying everything they pretend to be. And in the reflection you create, their mask starts to slip. Not because you exposed them with words, but because you made the difference undeniable. If they boast of integrity, show quiet discipline. If they shout virtue, act with grace. If they seek praise, work without asking. You don't challenge their claim. you outlive it. Let others notice the gap. Let the audience compare, and they will, because people may ignore accusations, but they always notice inconsistencies. Shaming, by contrast, strips away the target's control. They can't accuse you of attack. They can't prove your intent, but they feel the humiliation rising because their image begins to crack, not under assault, but under quiet exposure. The lie stands next to the truth, and suddenly it looks cheap, loud, hollow. This tactic demands patience. You don't get a scene, you don't get applause, but what you gain is deeper, influence without the backlash. Your power expands while theirs erodes in silence. Let them posture, let them pretend. You remain still, disciplined, opposite, because you don't defeat hypocrisy by pointing at it. You defeat it by becoming the thing it fails to be, and letting that difference haunt them in every room they enter. Choreograph chaos. Chaos terrifies most people. It disrupts routine, clouds judgment, ignites panic. But to those who understand power, chaos is not something to avoid. It's something to orchestrate. When the world feels like it's falling apart, the one who moves with calm precision looks like a god. The trick is to let everything seem out of control while you direct every thread behind the scenes. Choreographing chaos means creating conditions where others feel overwhelmed, uncertain, emotionally raw, while you remain the quiet conductor. Stir conflict between rivals. Withhold just enough information to create friction. Introduce sudden changes, false deadlines, conflicting priorities. Let people scramble. Let them react. Then, when they look for someone to restore order, you step in, not as the one who caused the storm, but as the one who can end it. Chaos exposes weaknesses. It reveals who panics, who betrays, who rises, who falls. You learn more in one day of disorder than in a year of stability. And once you've seen the truth under pressure, you know exactly how to dominate the calm that follows. But the key is never losing control yourself. You're not part of the storm. You are the storm's designer. Every breakdown, every clash, every unraveling moment is part of a quiet blueprint. You choreograph not to destroy, but to realign things in your favor. And when the dust settles, you're already standing where the crown will fall, untouched, unquestioned, and mistaken for the savior. Because the one who choreographs chaos is never swallowed by it. They rise through it, absorb power through patience. Most people chase power with urgency, grabbing, rushing, demanding to be seen. But true power isn't seized in chaos. It's absorbed in stillness. While others sprint toward recognition, you wait, you observe, you let their noise pass. Because patience doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing only what matters, and exactly when it matters most. Power flows toward the one who moves least, but understands most. In silence, you study alliances, weaknesses, ambitions. You watch people overextend, overpromise, overexpose. You let them think you're behind, uninterested, harmless. And when the moment comes, when the structure starts to crack or the leader begins to slip, you step forward without hesitation, not as a surprise, but as the obvious answer. Patience starves your enemies of a target. It denies rivals the satisfaction of knowing your pace, your plan, your desires. You don't react, you absorb. Their aggression lands in a void. Their momentum collapses on air, and while they exhaust themselves trying to win fast, you become inevitable. In the quiet, you gather loyalty. You build reputation not with noise, but with consistency, not with statements, but with presence. And slowly, people begin to orbit around you, not because you demanded it, but because they trust what doesn't chase them. This is the kind of power no one sees until it's fully formed, not explosive, not dramatic, certain, because the one who can wait, who chooses when to move instead of if, is never at risk of losing control. They become the force time bends toward. Act out of character, to reset perception. People build mental cages for you, tight boxes labeled with your habits, tone, and behavior. Once you're inside, they stop seeing who you are and start reacting to who they expect you to be. That predictability becomes a trap. It limits your influence, dulls your impact, and makes your power easy to ignore. But there's a way out. Act completely out of character, on purpose, and watch everything shift. This tactic isn't about losing control. It's about taking control of the narrative by shattering expectations. If you're always calm, raise your voice once. If you're always agreeable, go silent and cold. If you're known to follow, suddenly lead with aggression. The jolt this creates is immediate. People around you pause. They reevaluate. They begin to question what they thought they knew. And in that moment of confusion, you rewrite the terms of your identity. Why does it work? Because nothing commands attention like unpredictability. It forces people to see you with new eyes, to reconsider your boundaries, to second-guess their assumptions. They'll whisper, "Something's changed." Good. Now you're no longer a background presence. You're a variable, unreadable, untamed, and impossible to box in. Don't overuse it. One sharp break from your pattern is more powerful than a dozen small shifts. Make it deliberate. Make it visible. Let it echo. Then return to form. Only now, the form has changed. You've broken the rhythm. And when they can't predict you, they can't prepare for you. That's how you become untouchable. Not by staying who you are, but by reminding them you never fully were.